real world that walks the line. There's a rare few who think outside the box together for the crew to break the equations, not bound to any rule. Exposing to the world the universe's own view. It takes the talent of the craftsman, it takes the mind of the fool to make the vision realize energy and matter in a duel. To a break, to a duel. The old man Bills was running through his head. Cheryl probably got it hiding under his bed. Penny up the ante, making power for days. Don't listen to a word that the straight dope says. Mike building batteries that power a ship. Victor comes and talking math, that's the water spiral dip. Sean chucking plasma volts a mile long. Sheila on the video making tones from the prongs. Burning, breaking matter, they said it couldn't be done. And to all the people in the chat, I know you're having fun. So it's time to spend your Saturday with the doping old man Bills.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Bill. Joe, gonna have a fun day just hanging out talking about plasma today.
Very cool. Worthy subject.
Right on, man. Yeah, I was in my garage and I had done my video for the day and I'm looking and I go, you know what? I see everybody making these spinners. Can I improve this thing? So I started out like everybody else, right? And I go, okay, one on each side. And we'll just spin it, right? And I go, well, that's not enough. Let's go 2, then 3, then 4. I think I had 6 by the time I was done, dude. I just taking the soldering iron and adding stuff.
So what were you doing? Were you adding different lengths or the placement's all just different? How were you working that out?
So they're, within the same length, just like a little bit off from each other. And then some of them I added angles to, which actually really looked cool because then it looked like it was popping out in 3D as it was going. And I didn't do a very good job of securing it on the tip. So it was wobbling everywhere, which I think just added to the effect.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, let me ask you, when those wires are spinning around like that, I mean, is it creating like twist and tension in the wire itself? Like if you continuously bend a wire back and forth, how it'll break ultimately, sort of thing? Or, I mean, does it avoid that somehow?
No, it's pretty much a solid wire. So it doesn't have any of that. And the top is basically like a little stick. And then there's just a little cone that goes over it. And that's it. I basically used a little connector from a RC car motor. And that was it. And it just goes on there like a little cap.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right, well, why don't we see what you got?
Yeah, I'll show you this. This is with the 2. Oh man, hit the button too early. Okay, hold on. There you go. So you can see with the thing, it's so loose on there, it hops a little bit, so it looks like different lines.
Yeah, that's cool.
Nice. Okay, so this is basically the first one, man. And no, I didn't fix the little breakout problem I had to the side.
Hey, Nathan, you want to turn the video volume down? It's very loud, so we can't really talk over it.
Oh, well, there you go. I'll just turn off the volume.
Okay.
You can see it now. It looks like it hops up a little bit, right?
Yeah, I see that, right. So that's like an imbalance in it.
There wasn't enough weight on it, so the ion wind was pushing it.
Yeah, I see that. That's cool. How do you have it rigged up? Do you have a picture of it in the light, how it's rigged up?
Yeah, I do. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. Man, I did it after so many different riggings, so I don't know which one. Yeah, it's somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Okay, well.
Sorry.
Okay, so you're soldering the wire and then there's a cone? You said that's cool.
Let's just see if it's at the end. No, it's not at the end of this one. All right. Let me just pull up another one. Let's see.
I mean, yeah, that plasma looks like the inextinguishable flame, right?
Yeah, it does. So, oh, you know what? I think send it to Sean. Give me a second. I'll pull it right up. Because I know he wants to hit it with AC and get this thing screaming. Okay, well, I'm looking in the wrong one. Here we go. There you go. You see that?
Oh, okay, yeah, cool.
So,
So
yeah, it's
that's
just
nothing crazy at all. It's just a balanced wire.
no. That's it. All it needs to do is break out the plasma and get a good connection between where it sits down on top of it and the wire itself. So
I see that. That's cool.
yeah, you can see the top of the thing. I melted it a couple times. I was having fun. All right, so let's go to the next one, man. Some of these things are really cool. Sorry, like I said, man, I was just having fun today. So this is with the 3 that you saw, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty happy because my better camera picked this up. My other one was going fuzzy that I usually use.
Oh, okay. That's neat.
Yeah, usually they just do the spinner with 2, like one on each side.
Mm. I just wonder how fast it's going.
You know, I'll tell you what, it's deceiving because when you have the lights on, it looks like it's going really slow. And in here, it looks like it's going fast. There you go. I just picked up the energy in it.
Yeah, I mean, I really do wonder how fast that's spinning because you get some good numbers off of that as far as how much thrust it has and stuff. If you get a good weight on it.
No, there's not a lot of wind coming off of Joe.
No, well, it's enough to spin it around that fast.
Yeah, it's enough for that. But as far as the useful thing, it's just basically a sparkler. But
Yeah,
I think it looks cool.
it does.
So, okay. Look at that from the side.
No, I mean, it definitely looks cool. That's for sure.
All right. So now I can't leave well enough alone. You know that. So we'll do it one last time, man, and then we'll move on to something else. Okay. So I think I added angle ones to this one, Joe. That you can see the depth difference.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like exactly like one of those little Chinese spin toys
Yeah.
where you spin it around and then it spells out like a dirty saying or something that you put into it.
Yeah, pretty much, man. It's just something fun to do. It's
Oh, it's fun to look at, man. That's beautiful. And I mean, this is something that it's better than one of those plasma balls that have been popular for how long, right? Where
yeah.
you have the little tendrils going out, to the surface of the glass, following your finger or whatever. This is way cooler than that.
Yeah.
It's like a straight up plasma portal. It's just physical. Now, if you could do this without the wires and just have the plasma traveling in that kind of orientation, that might be something else altogether.
Yeah, I'd be rich. That's what it means.
That might be something else altogether. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, I just think it looks cool, man.
No, that's neat. It's definitely something to look at. Flashy stuff, fire, and explosions. People love it.
Yeah. So that was my fun day of playing with plasma, man. It's man, it's beautiful to look at. Anyway, so the shipping place didn't send you your coil yet, huh?
It's been, well, today was the expected delivery, and I've been watching it all day because it's been raining out and stuff, and I don't want it sitting out there. That's for damn sure. So I've been keeping my eye on it, and it still says it's going to be delivered today, but like I don't know how. It's not out for delivery, and it's just been going from shipping facility to shipping facility. So,
Yeah.
it's, this is what happens when you put the government in charge of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it's not bad if you think about it. Even, to get from California to New York in a week, you really can't complain anyway. Like that's pretty quick in the first place to be expected. But it sucks. It's not a big deal in the scope of things when they're off a day. But I was looking forward to today forever. Now now I look forward to tomorrow, I guess.
Well, I was gonna say you got your power supply, got it all wired up, found you a cord to put into that thing, man. Everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had a good extension cord kicking around that I was like, I guess I could do without this one. So I cut that thing, and it's nice because that'll give me a good 10, 12 feet of, reach with it.
Oh, did you got to keep the circuit portion like at least 3 to 4 feet away? So it's I want to say that it's the power packs that are unshielded, and so is your power supply. So it'll start tinkering with it.
Gotcha. So you got to keep the circuit 3 to 4 feet away from the power supply.
No, it just I want to say just keep the coil itself 3 feet away from any of the
Boy,
electronics. Yeah, and
gotcha.
there's plenty of wire there. I sent you plenty of wire in there.
Okay, cool. Well,
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. Then I could spin my own damn plasma.
there you go. Well, I hope you got a soldering iron because you're gonna have to
No,
modify some stuff.
no, I don't. But I have a torch and some solder, like a small torch.
Not the same.
Yeah, definitely not.
You have to send you a different top. I didn't even think about it when I sent it. I just sent it like I normally do with the rod down the center, all that stuff. You know what I
Yeah, it's
mean?
all good. I'm very I can make things happen. Not well, but I can make things happen, man. I'm a redneck. He's spinning the thing off of a tin can up there, yeah.
Oh, dude, you know what? I actually did it when I had the top off of the coil and I just ran a wire to it.
Mhm.
You're able to spin it no problem. So if you took something that was like, just had a base where it hold it in on any kind of nail or something, just attach the wire to the nail and you're good to go, man. You can make a
Now all that
spinner on
break
top.
off is coming off of that. Where is that tapping from? Is that tapping from the center, or is that tapping from your breakout?
Straight off the number 2 coil, yes, the
Straight off the
breakout.
number two. Yeah, that makes sense. Can you do it with the other side?
Um, Depends. You would have to put a lot thicker rod down the center to get enough of the push, enough force.
Mm. It'd be interesting to know if you could do that and then use radiant energy off of water or something like that to actually induce the same effect.
I can tell you it gets hot when you change that rod size in the center, but I don't know if there's enough plasma breakout. You'll get
Mm.
I think you'll get a slow spin out of it, but I don't know that you're going to get the biggest spin you need.
Yeah.
So,
But is the plasma breakout really the goal? Or is
oh,
it the spin? Do you follow how I'm framing that? Just like if
Yeah.
you can get the rotation without the breakout because you're just creating enough, ionic wind at that point, you know,
Yeah, but it's based on ion wind. So if
it is.
you, yeah, so if you have the lights on, you won't see the breakout. But
Right.
then you turn the lights off, you start to see all the breakout.
Mhm.
So yeah. Hmm.
That was a nifty trick.
Yeah. Well, I thought so, man. It was just something fun to do. So check out what else I did, Joe. I was doing back capacitance on my circuit. And I go, okay, well, we just want to plug it into ground on the backside and have it pull it through. And I go and plug it into ground, and sure enough, it lit up brighter. You know what I found out after the first time I did it? Well, my whole power bar, whatever you want to call it, wasn't even plugged in. Yet
Oh,
it picked up the extra energy, and I'm like, what?
no kidding.
It's funny because there's nothing in those things. I
Right.
mean, literally, they're like three strips of copper or in brass or something like that, and they just have two little clamp. They go on there when you plug in your circuit. So either they were crossing and making a dielectric in each one of them, or it was just a mass of metal that was in there. Either one of them was doing this, and I still don't know exactly why. I just thought it was hilarious because it's like I always get crap from people saying you're just pulling the electrons out of the wall because they're connected over to your 200 whatever going into your house, and it's like, all right, well, what happened now that the plug's not even plugged in? Like, where are they coming from now?
Right. Well, that makes sense. It's cool though.
Oh, dude, it's always cool when you get something to work that somebody expects and you get to trip people out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, John's not the same, man. Oh, I love doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, but it worked out, man. I was able to pull back capacitance on it. So basically, I took the coil that was resonating to one that wasn't because the frequency was too high. I put the capacitors on the other side of it. So just on the one with just the number two coil. And it balanced it out and brought the frequency down of that coil to the point where it would take in the energy and pull it right out to the caps.
Okay.
So
Nice.
yeah, so it's now wireless power that we can actually pull energy from.
Oh
So
yeah, I mean that's pretty damn useful, I'd have to say.
well, considering it doesn't really care how many coils I put around it, and then for every coil that's resonant to it, it'll allow another one to jump from that one to the next one. So it'll give you a further distance. So
Hmm.
that basically means as long as I can put them in resonance, I can pull energy. So I can put them all around it, pull energy all I want, man. Or I could drop it right in the salt water.
Right, it's a stacking effect at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The more you have, the more push you have off of it, more stretch, so to speak, from point A to point B, and then then you expand your capacitance, by having the secondaries also, so then you could store more. And you could still use it and not necessarily bring it out of resonance, meaning that it's highly efficient. So there's a lot of cool things there.
Yeah. Well, I was just trying to show people, man. We says add a spark gap for more power. We'll have to do that. So I bet you we can get that thing spinning off the top. I was kind of thinking, man, let me add more wires, see if I can't get enough to get it to go. And I even, angled them down a little bit to see if I couldn't get it to go. It wouldn't go. So I tried.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right when you have it spinning around like that, you're creating an additional inertial force. So that's not going to create lift. If anything, that's going to create, you know, the centrifugal force.
Right. But I was just hoping that because they would be angled down just a hair, that you would not only get the spin, but it may try to push
Well,
just a little
right. I
bit.
mean, I get that, but it's still the spin is gonna change the
Negate it.
center of mass on it. You know, kind of be a little self-defeating unless if it has enough thrust. That's where the thrust comes in.
It only had to move up a 1/4 inch to get off of that thing. So
That's
that's
fair.
I was gonna use millimeters, but you don't talk millimeters.
No,
So.
no, we don't talk that kind of filth on this channel.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Oh, there was his phone.
Just remember all the Europeans that came in to work on that NASA project, friggin' basically blew up the Challenger, because they because they decided to interject their metrics into our imperial system.
Wow, that's terrible.
Bunch of schmucks.
Huh. Oh man, yeah. Sean had some cool stuff going on too. I wanted to show you this, Joe. I hope the volume works on it. I don't know that it will. So he's got this monster tower.
Yeah, I saw this. That's crazy. What do you got going on over there? He was saying that it's putting out like a 1,000,000 volts or something.
Yeah, look at this thing.
Holy shit!
You got glass caps in there or something? I can't tell.
I'd seen somebody else do this before. He sent it to me. I didn't have a chance to catch up on some of the stuff he was saying. I've had a busy week. But I've seen this before elsewhere.
Yeah, he said like 1,000,000 volts in this thing. Wow.
Doesn't it? It takes some time to start to run up that, but I'm pretty sure once it starts to run up, it kind of does it like a Jacob's ladder. Like it goes in orders of magnitude every time it travels up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, this is the better one because it doesn't spark in between it. So yeah, well maybe it does. No, it does. It has spark caps all on the right side. So when he turns it a little bit, you'll see them because they're up against the side of it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. There they are right there. Can you see it between the two pins?
I mean, it's 1 inch on my screen. I gotta.
Oh.
Yeah, I can. I mean, yeah, I believe that's what that is the spark gap in between those red.
Oh yeah,
Red
it is.
bulbs,
Okay.
right?
We just saw the gap in it right there. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. There's a gap right there.
Mhm.
His whole room's gonna be like it's gonna be nasty for a
Yeah, it's
while.
gonna be excited. Gonna
Yeah,
get
for
the
you and I to
juices flowing.
watch. I don't know if it's gonna be exciting for him.
Yeah, he didn't light it up yet, huh?
Not yet.
Damn.
Let's take a look at these. So I wanted to talk to you about this, Joe, because we always evaluate the plasma that we see going on. And this is the Northern Lights and stuff.
Mhm.
And you can kind of see the same kind of plasma breakout that you would in a coil or something like that. Maybe more intense here for sure. But you see the wavy lines in there, and each one of them has the line in between each one of them, like an
I do.
RF in there.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
I mean, it looks like a waveform to me. It's just highly variable. That's sort of what I saw when I looked at it. But what actually drew my attention to this was something I sent you just after you sent me this. I was burning some incense, right, and that I put into that wax organite that I made, right. So I centered the incense on it, and what it was doing was it was creating a symmetrical, counter-rotational, geometric caduceus patterns. So and it was doing it regularly. So, I mean, if you could find that photo and put that up, I think that that's something somewhat related to this, to be honest. And that's it would, given that it's the Northern Lights, and we know that it has to do with geomagnetic anomalies to a degree, or fluctuation in geomagnetic states, that you could directly correlate that to the effects of the organite. Yeah.
Nice.
Can
Here
you,
it is right here.
yeah, can you make that bigger by chance?
No,
So
because it's
everybody
on
can.
Facebook.
You got to save these things, man. This is why I send it to you.
All right, hold on. Give me
You
just a
got to
minute.
make
I'll
a
take
folder,
this.
brother. We could. All right, we'll work on that off air.
Give me a
But
second.
yeah, because it's really intricate and it's absolutely symmetrical.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, there you go. So you could see how those two spiralitic caduceus type smoke streams there. Okay. First of all, they're all actively spiraling. So in motion, that is in a vortice, upward rising vortice, and they're counter rotational, which you could tell even in the still photo that they're counter rotational. But look at the symmetry that's involved here. I personally feel that since it's two strands born of the same source, since they share symmetry and counter rotation, that this becomes an analog for entanglement. Okay. Do with that information as you may, but
They do come from the same source.
correct.
That's cool.
They're split from the same source, and yet they're two sides of a coin doing the same thing, just completely opposite. And it's consistent, photo after photo, video after video. There's some kind of innate connection while they're in the higher density states. And when they're born from a mutual laminar source, right? And then as the density breaks down, the laminosity turns to turbulence, and it's only through the diffuse nature of that and the introduction of the external turbulence that the entanglement, so to speak, in that case, would be broken. But I mean, it's beautiful to look at in the first place. It's just interesting that it does that. Now, I will throw it out there that, I mean, I don't believe that the cause of this is solely the organite situation that it's on. Okay. Like, it'll do that if it's not in an organite as well. But, and this is the big but, it will more consistently do it when it's burning atop of the organite more consistently.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And, it'll also come up with more intricate and stable patterns. So that's my observation, at least.
Yeah, because it looks like they're funneling down when you get here too, or funneling up, I should say.
Well, I was going to say, right. I mean, the smoke is rising, so this is kind of opposite of what we would generally observe.
Yeah, it's not going down; it's going up, so it's unraveling.
Yep, it's going up.
Okay, we got a question here. He asked twice. Sorry, we're in the middle of something. What's the difference between the midline between the Tesla coil, center of the coil, and the Rodin coil? Well, two totally different coils, and they will not put off the same energy that's coming out of them unless you actually put the Tesla coil connected to the Rodin coil, which I have done. Which then it'll produce whatever energy the Tesla coil does, but they're not the same at all. One's more potential, which is the Rodin coil. It'll come up as a high voltage field, and then the the Tesla coil is pinching the energy in. The Rodin coil is, like I said, like a high voltage field. So they're two different. They both come out in voltage. One will actually push the thing to shove this thing across the room with the Tesla coil, and then the other one won't. In the Rodin coil, you will not get without a negative energy circuit, you will not get the pull in from the environment it requires the same function that a center of a Tesla coil does, unless you have a cold energy circuit, which means room temperature and below on your circuit, which means you pull the negative first without the resistor. So, sorry. Two different distinct coils, two different operating systems to work them. So, they both have a center vortex. They do have a center vortex, and it goes on in them, but they're completely run different. Tesla coil produce it with any circuit that you put on it. The Rodin coil is very specific to which circuit will work to do that. You can run a Rodin coil like you would a Tesla coil, but there's so much heat loss that comes off a Rodin coil. When you do that, like with a ZVS or something like that, it won't work right. And you're only going to get it cold enough when you're under 10 volts, and you're going to need, you won't need any more than that, but you will need it to go negative. The heat in it builds up fast because there's compacted together all the wires. It builds up too fast. So in the Tesla coil, it doesn't. It allows the heat to push out faster because you're in a conversion state. So I run my Rodin coil based on my Tesla coil. I put the rod down the center of my Tesla coil. I run it to my Rodin coil, saturate that coil, and then pull in the energy from the room. That's how I personally run it. How would I run it? I would run it with two NPNs, running them backwards through the negative, through the circuit, get that sucker have mostly voltage running through it so it stays cold. Then it'll pull in the environment. It's all like energy and potential to pull it in. That's how I would run it. I have the circuit on the channel, by the way, in case you're interested on it. So, all right, back to what we're talking about. Sorry, try to make sure I answer the question.
Yeah, no, all good.
So, yeah. Oh, and by the way, one of those things I was looking at, dude, we're looking at Floyd's suite, and he basically had the magnet, and he was talking about it was you put a razor blade on the center of it, and it would start to oscillate back and forth like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as Bearden says, it was doing work. So basically it was doing the switching on and off, and producing a little bit of energy out of it. But what I didn't get out of it was that little bit of oscillation. Like, how is that producing the bigger field? You know what I mean? Because he's saying he's getting 110 volts out of this thing. He had to have a multiplier somewhere, because you pay for a little bit of oscillation in most circuits, which is fine, but you have to still pull in the energy from somewhere. So I don't think it was being pulled in for free, not at 110 volts. But I might be wrong.
I'm not familiar enough with it really to have any sort of direct commentary on that specific of an example. But I mean, realistically, it doesn't take a whole lot of oscillatory motion to to excite ether, so to speak, and to be able to turn it into turn it into a draw or an amplification if you already have a current that's there.
So do you think he's getting most of the energy out of the room then?
I mean, I would say so. Under that circumstance, it's the virtue of the oscillation and the conductive nature of what's oscillating that would be able to bring it in. Then I think, so if you oscillate a conductor, that's you could ultimately get a charge put into it.
I was just wondering, because it was such a high amount for such a little bit of resonance. So by the way, Skip, you asked about where you can get my coils from. Just email me and I'll give you all the information on it. So yeah, so I was looking at it, and it, like all the other systems, usually it's not 10, 15 volts is what you're going to get out of it if you can keep the oscillation down to under 5 volts. You know what I mean? You get a good return on it. But he's getting a big return on it. I wanted to know, like, did he do resonance in it to get the amplification up?
Well, what's oscillating is a steel razor blade. like a double-edged razor? Like what is oscillating here?
So, okay, so in the system, instead of using a switch to turn it off and on, right? The magnet already is doing the work. It's already going off and on based
Yep.
on the materials he put in there, right?
Mhm.
So he no longer has to pay for the oscillation. That's already done. What he may get out of it when you put wire next to it is he may get a little bit of energy because it's already going back and forth
Well,
and
right,
working.
because you would be able to induct the current that's being generated by the oscillation. So, but
Yeah,
my question is, so why such a big number under such a low oscillation? You
that's
know,
what I'm saying.
which is the question. So how I'm trying to dissect that is if I understand the component that's oscillating, because there's the variables in what is oscillating itself would have a huge impact on what you could inductively pick up off of it. Um, and it's just like in using an inductor to pull off of any field. So the question is, what is it about what's oscillating that's creating that amount of potential disturbance that could then be inductively taken off of it, right?
Mm.
So that's why I'm just trying to understand that. Now, when it comes to something like a razor blade, right? When what struck me as interesting about that is that, like a whip, right? When a razor blade's thin, but it also comes to a very thin point as well, right? And if you're oscillating like the base of the razor or the center of the razor, wherever it's being held and therefore dampened, okay, that's going to be the least degree of oscillation would be at that point of contact. Okay, but the further away you get from that dampening source or the dampening hole, right? The greater the potential for oscillation that could potentially occur. When you're dealing with something like a razor blade that comes to a super fine microscopic point that's furthest away from a position of dampening, you would have a much greater oscillation at the tip and a massive surface area microscopically that exists at the plane where the razor blade meets. Okay. Because when you zoom into the edge of the razor blade, it's not a flat surface, right? You're going to have grooves and jagged edge that's coming to a very, very fine microscopic tip. And it's at that very tip and that large surface area where uh, the oscillation is going to be the greatest, and in turn is also going to have the most the opportunity for to affect the potential. Does that make
Mm.
sense? So that's why I thought that it being a razor blade was interesting, but I think that the variables need to really be kind of
Yeah, well,
worked out.
he's using the razor blade to prove a theory. You know what I
Mhm.
mean, on how it works. So I'm looking at it more that he used two magnets and then use the repulsion in opposite, right? So not only is it doing work, but you can amplify it by the other one doing work as well.
Mhm.
And then, you know what I mean, have them push up against each other and then put the wire in the center there. And then you can really get some work out of it.
Yeah, I mean that
So,
definitely makes sense. But if the test is showing results that aren't being understood under how are you getting 100 volts out of it, right? It's kind of the question.
well,
You kind of got to look further than it, because if it's not like working under the same traditional things that we generally think of, like in the context of this, it's not working like a coil. A coil works on the same principles, but it's got different geometries to it that exhibit different attributes.
right, right. What I was thinking, Joe, and just if he's doing that, right, putting it in his oscillation, he's putting it in, he's getting a Bedini effect. When you get a Bedini effect, you're not getting the hot because of the core is not there in the same way. You know what I mean? You're getting the wire, you're getting the magnet to do the work. So it's like working over, doing the same thing, right? He said he's getting cold energy. And then what Bearden was saying is that he easily flips the field the same way that I would do it
I
in
got you.
order to take potential and put it into hot energy and get the amps out of it. He said he was doing the same thing. I was just Yeah, the only thing I was getting at is I could see the energy flip. I could see how he's making the energy and stuff. I just couldn't account for how high of a level he was getting it at.
Well, was it a single edge or was it like an array with multiple edges? Because obviously, the more edges that you have, and if you have them positioned in certain circumstances, there could be an amplifying effect by orders of magnitude.
Well, it's in a box about this big.
So you
Okay.
don't know
Yeah,
that's
that's the thing.
right.
It's in that big and it doesn't rotate. It literally works on the magnet moving based on how it's built.
So if you get it to work right with a single razor, and you have proof of concept, and you can understand how it could work with a single razor, right? But then you sit there and you make a box that more or less acts as like this system's equivalent of like a radiator, where you have very, very fine, almost like filaments, right? That are all working at that same regard and then geometrically spaced out so that they're all working not only in onto themselves, but also impacting the ones in their direct relationship, creating a much greater effect in a small area. So if you want to do the same exact thing, rather than use one razor, you use, um, three rows of six or something. You know what I mean?
Well, he wasn't, like I said, he wasn't
Then you have
using the
18
razor to
razors on it.
produce the energy. It was the proof of concept that it was working. That's all he
Right,
used the
right.
razor for. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
just trying to
John,
explain the high figure.
yeah. John says he was harvesting the magnetic plasma through the triode and modulating via the electric field. So he said it was sandwiched between the ceramic magnets. So that makes sense. So
Okay.
if he's pulling it, if he can get at least 5 volts or 10 out of that, and he can produce that, which doesn't seem like too hard of a task, then the environment can pull in the rest. So I can start to see it because in the Rodin coil it shows the same thing when I connect my Tesla coil. It shows the oscillation between the two. It shows the energy being pulled in and the thing getting colder. So
Right. Well, once you create the oscillation, like, and this goes with anything, right? Once you create an oscillation in a potential, right, and it's repeating over and over again, that innately works like a pump, right? We've said that a bunch of times. We've seen it at scale. Works like a pump. So once you, like anything, once you have the pump going, and there's a differential that's occurring that's creating a draw, right? You're able to manipulate that draw based on all sorts of different variables. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things you could do in that case to get it to pull more. Um, I could think of a couple things off the top of my head, but it's, kind of makes sense.
anyway, sorry, I was watching videos and reading up as much as I could on it this week. So yeah, I guess they're all way ahead of us on that one. So all right, real quick. Oh, here we go. You want to see this. Pull this one out. This is what Sean's working on. Immediately gets it to go out of scale.
Yeah, look at
Nice.
that. Very nice. So Sean has rigged up a toaster.
Sean did that dude, he's gotta have the best thrift store in town.
Sean was like, okay, I need like a plasma box. How do I do this? And then he buys a toaster. He's like, create plasma for me, toaster.
So funny, dude. This one looks like an eyeball. Dude, I'll show the toaster too. It should be in here. Yeah, dude, the other one was shaped like a ziggurat. So like a Mayan temple.
Hmm.
Oh, there it is. He's got a lot more on that one.
This
Yeah, you
is
can see it.
this is excellent progress that he's making. Excellent.
Oh yeah.
This reminds me so much of The Rock, man, because it's like, but it's subtle. What's the difference? It's because like things don't do that.
Yeah.
That's why things don't do that. That's it.
It's like a famous line, dude. Now
Right.
it's in the Star Trek and it's also in The Rock, dude. That was my favorite.
Oh, I'm telling you.
So he was saying it's kind of like when he did his Tesla coils and he's doing the cones. It's putting the energy right there at the top where it's condensed.
Yeah. I wonder what it feels like to hold that.
Gee, I don't know. You can look at that.
I know. That's really impressive. It's no kidding.
By the way, Joe, that's what a spinner is supposed to look like on the top of your Tesla coil. That's what he's using. Not my cheapy version.
Yeah. Yeah, that thing looks a little bit more balanced than what you had going on, but hey, I ain't one to judge. That's wild. I don't know. Making awesome progress with that electric stuff, man.
Yeah, he is. Let's take a look at another one, man. See what else he's got. Oh, there's his toaster.
Oh yeah. I was like, I can't say that I didn't know a poster could do this, but the fact that this is what you volunteered this thing for, I don't think the original owner had this in mind when they donated it. That's
Oh
great.
man. Yeah. No high voltage in there, huh?
Plasma toaster.
Huh. He's got it run right through the top. He just straight drilled a hole in the top of this thing. Love that.
Yeah, that's fucking rad, man.
Yeah. Oh, here's another one.
So
Oh, look
that
at that.
so that
Go ahead.
ziggurat that he had going on before,
Uh-huh.
like what that ziggurat that he had going on before, right?
Yeah,
What
these
are we
ones.
thinking? Are we thinking that it's the geometry of what they're that he molded it in that's mostly causal of the effects that he's getting at this point? Obviously, we know it's the electric components within it. That's but I'm talking about the actual observable effects, like moving the damn spinner bar.
Yeah, because he's getting whatever oatmeal he's building this thing out of, because it looks like an oatmeal cookie when he puts them out flat. Whatever that mixture is he's using works really well. And then it's focusing the energy at the top, just like a pyramid would. So it makes all the sense in the world which side
I
he's using.
mean, it does, but it's something we talk about, but that you don't often see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there you go, and that's the point. You're seeing it with the eyeballs and stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because it gives credence to everybody that talks about the pyramid and the different kind of stones they put on it and everything, and the natural energy field or the natural sound that comes off of these things.
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of interesting geometries to mold these things into to see what the effects are ultimately, including like some really intricate sort of. It doesn't have to be necessarily like like uh like a standard shape of any kind. It could really just be anything that you put your mind to, which
Hmm.
kind of is interesting because
Yeah.
if it's creating fields and now you're introducing patterns into the fields, you could have you know, could have much more sophisticated field geometries potentially in interaction.
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking. He was using this one too, Joe. That he must go to that store a lot. Look at this.
I believe he does. I mean, he talks about it all the time.
I love that, dude. They're the oatmeal cookie.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right at the end. Yeah.
I was talking to him about the idea of molding out these electrodes and also having it sandwiched with a piece of like orgonite in the middle, because I think that the way that the orgonite takes in energy and then sort of redirects it and focuses it would actually blend well to the system, given that the that these have to be like agitated in a way in order for them to continue the cycle, right? So there's got to be some excitement that occurs, right, in them in order to get it to kind of release its energy and then create its new energy, right? And by taking an orgonite, that would actually fill that void of you know um, having a consistent interaction where it's pulling off of it, redirecting it, and then keeping it in that state of flow without it having to be mechanically, you know.
Well, you never have to mechanically do it. The giveaway is the tinfoil. Once you put it in the tinfoil, it continues to charge, right?
Right.
So you would need a piece that goes to the top and bottom of the tinfoil and then continues it around so to get a flow no matter what.
Flow no matter what. Right.
Yeah, and then it'd be basically charged, and then you seal it in whatever you're going to put it in, right? And then it stays that way forever. It won't change. It'll continue to charge itself because at that point, it literally is better than perpetual motion because it's not only motion, but it's charging motion at the same time.
Yep. That's it. Right. Continuously creating a new charge.
So he says those things are fully done within like a month or 2 months, and then they stop taking a charge. So, but then again, they would lose steady charge over time. So I still think it's got to be continuous flow. And the reason I say that is they're changing the directions where everything's all scattered in material. It's changing all the directions to go one way and making like a laminar flow going through it.
Right.
And that's what I think he's got to continue the state of.
Okay, so let's play with this idea for 1 second. That's interesting because if it's dying after 2 months or however long, right? The only reason I could postulate that it would die is because you've lost your oscillation within it. The interactive oscillation that's occurring has gone too diffuse, right? But how do you prevent that from occurring? Well, you prevent that from occurring by continuing, like you said, continuing the flow. So if you put it in a situation where it's in that constant motion, then it would actually not slow down and not discharge and die. It would just simply keep going. Or in theory, and if you're drawing off of it continuously, it's like one of those situations I feel like where if you're drawing off of it constantly, it's going to last longer than if you're not drawing off it at all. It's stillness is its enemy.
Kind of like a battery, you got to do it a couple times, like a saltwater battery. You got to charge it, then deplete it, then charge it and deplete it several times so you get a memory of what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. All right, what we got in the comments?
Oh, well, Dan was talking about the gravity flyer and how to make improvements on the frequency. And I think I'm getting close to solving that riddle. I'll run some tests and stuff like that with my Tesla coils and my flybacks. and I'm getting closer. It's just a signal when I'm watching it on the oscilloscope. I'm still getting a dead signal. It'll do perfect. It'll give me a short one, which is the beat, and then on the bottom on the other one, it depletes it. So I need to just find a way to get that to go up to the beat frequency, which I think I'm close to doing, and then it should work itself out. But it takes a lot of time and tuning to do that.
Yeah. I'm gonna comment on the
Go for
gravifier
it.
real quick, and it's nothing I haven't said before, but you got to remember with gravifier, right? It all has to do with density, right? So if you want to think about it in a more mechanical sense, right? If you have a huge differential, okay, even if it's very small, but if you have a huge differential, right? It that differential like it has no choice but to float, we'll call it. Okay. So if you have like a sunken ship, right? And then you have an airbag to act as like a ballast in the hull of the sunken ship, right? You don't need an airbag the size of the ship in order to raise the ship. You just need a few airbags that are
Mhm.
a fraction of the size of the ship to get the whole ship to lift, right? And it's sort of the same thing with the gravifier, right? So if you have a very, very small point that its density is so vastly different than the ambient densities, it has no choice at a certain point in time than to lift, right? And it doesn't matter that it's very small and doesn't encompass the whole thing necessarily. The fields that surround it are needed to be able to cause the compression necessary to get those highest density levels, right?
Mhm.
And that would expand within the structure and beyond of the actual gravifier itself. Okay. But then comes the equation, like Nathan's mentioned before, in context of the gravifier, but also in context of Hutchinson also. But what if you change the medium of the ambient energies as well, right? So when you start playing with the internal fields of the gravifier and the external fields, now all of a sudden your ratios are changed. So now you need less to be able to cause it to, to forcefully rise because again, it's the density levels. I don't know why I felt the need to say that, but I did. Oh,
Nice. Yeah, it drives you nuts, Joe. It's just a. I don't want to say it's an unwanted frequency because it has to be there, but it's one that's hard to match. If that makes any sense, because you got to remember everything has to be in a wave of each other. When you pull that string, it makes one, and then a little less, it makes two, then three, and then four. It's got to be within each one of those. So you can't have it wrong. And the beauty of the beat frequency is it pulls it into it.
mhm.
It what it does is it pulls the energy from the other ones in order to balance. So it self-regulates. The
Well, right. It's
front,
that beat frequency that acts as a form of virtual cavitation, is
there
what
you
it is,
go.
because
There
it's
you
in a
go.
state of expanse and contraction. And
So
it's
you can
during those
see
points
why
of contraction that the density levels go up.
a frequency that you're missing the other half of the resonance at that one point will throw the whole thing off.
Mhm.
It, it can't continue to build because it's constantly being shut off at one point because the other half isn't there. So it can't, continuously build, fill, because it goes boom and it falls flat. And then it has to rebuild and then boom, it'll fall flat. So
Yeah. Well, we talk about, well, they have it all the time, right? Um, forget the context of what we're talking about, with like, craft being able to achieve antigravitics, right? Just look at like even jet technologies now and stuff like that. They have pulse jet engines. The way that the pulse jets work is off the same exact principles of expansion and contraction cavitation. And you look up at the sky and you see donut, 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 right? And that's those experimental craft being used in just a whole other different way under the same premise. You know,
Gotcha. So let me answer a question here, okay? Because it comes up a lot, Joe. I always get, what if you just put it on a scale, right? So let me see if I can't pull the video for you, because it's just a bad idea. And let me, if I can find the video, here it is.
well, it'd have to be a mechanical scale first off.
Well, no, I have a mechanical scale, and that's not really the problem. The problem is the inconsistency of this thing. Number one, you get a wrong reading right away. Okay, and just watch this, and I'll show you. It won't take but a couple seconds. So in it, you have to tune it by motor speed. So you see me run the motor speed. And then just watch how it jumps off the ground. So you see it doing that? Immediately, I could tell you that that scale will be going haywire.
That's a real teeth rattler you got there.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And
It
it's
gets
real
even worse.
for it, you know.
Yeah, so it's kind of left with the proposition, either it lifts or it doesn't. Dude, I could be real cheap about it and put this thing on the scale and say, look, it lost half the weight because it's only standing on one of the legs or two of the legs at a time when it's doing this. But that would be a complete lie. It's not really losing weight. It's just got a crappy balance.
I mean, but there's other tools out there to achieve the same ends. All you need is something that measures torque, and then you just attach. You see what it's torquing at. That's it. If it's able to apply torque, then that's the same as work over time, and then you could calculate weight loss off of that. But it's just the wrong tool.
No, I understand. You could put it on a hanging scale and see if it has a little bit of lift, which then you can't ground it out. So that was an old version that had plastic bolts on the bottom. My other one just goes to straight rods to the ground, and it requires the grounding in order to pick up the energy. So you lose the grounding and lose the energy coming in if you hang it to see if there's a weight difference, which it'll give you a minuscule amount, but it's not going to give you enough to get 3 pounds off the ground.
Yeah, but guess what? Anything that's in a state of vibratory oscillation like that in a wobbly stance is going to have dramatic weight fluctuations just based on its center of gravity changing continuously, and therefore, if it's hooked up at one point where it's balanced in the center, it's going to be thrown off that balance. The weight's going to shift, not going to register the same each and every time, regardless. So it's a self-defeating proposition. It has nothing to do with breaking physics at that point. You're just,
Yeah, that's what I thought. Same exact thing. You're pretty much done at that point.
well, that's why I'm saying like a torque. As if you were going to measure it, getting torque readings off of it would probably make the biggest difference, because there's only so much potential torque that it could apply, at any given time. So.
So make a lighter version. It's hard to make a lighter version. I just tell you that right now. You can replace the all threads in it. You can get them smaller. That'll cut down the weight. The plates are what they are. The motors are fan motors that are 60 millimeter fan motors. They don't really weigh a whole lot. Okay. You could start replacing the metal of the craft, but you start losing effects every time you do. So it's damned if you do and damned if you don't, because to solve one thing, you're killing a whole nother effect. So I think I'm better off just keep working on that frequency, and once that's solved, then anything after that can be worked on. But you have to build the energy first. That's just the way I see it, and I think that'll solve a lot of problems. So
Yeah, I haven't thought about that thing in a while. To be honest with you, it's like when
yeah,
we
well,
first started talking, I used to like to try to get my head around like the trials and tribulations you were having with it, but you know, kind of faded into obscurity a little bit.
no, I get it. I don't work on it a whole lot. I don't show it a whole lot because there's so much negativity around it. Like I know people out there really appreciate, you know what I mean, the work I did on it. And then there's some people that just stop by my channel without watching anything and will tell me something dumb. And
Yeah,
they continue to do it. And it's like, dude, it just gets old. It's like I already know what you saw on the video you saw, so I don't know. It gets really irritable.
I don't know. It's been my opinion from day one that I didn't like the design of that, and if I was going to go about using the same physics to create a similar effect, that is absolutely positively not the way I would have went about it in any sort of way, shape, or form. I would have went more along the lines of what you were doing with that gravity well, but I would have made it gyroscopic also to introduce another axis of potential motion, you know, or just skipping it altogether and just trying to figure out a solid state method to do the same. That's just me, but I don't know. I haven't had the means to play with this shit, you know, and therefore I don't spend any energy, you know, like energy thinking about it anymore, you know.
Well, I mean, it needs a spin and counter rotation, right? So a geometry coil would work perfect because it spins one way and it spins the other in oscillation together, which is perfectly what this thing needed. Okay. And it has the compression in the center in order to pull out the fields the exact same way with the static um and the radiant field out there. So it has all of it. It's which geometry patterns can you use and how much weight do you put in it based on the wire size that you use.
Right. I get that.
So
But at the end of the day, I mean, you were never trying to recreate the wheel with it. You're just trying to prove the guy's work. So,
yeah, that was it. Like if I was going to do it, okay, look, let me just say this flat out. I would take $2,000 and start building geometry coils. Is what I'd do. I'd straight just buy a wire and start winding and find me a pattern, non-canceling that goes to oscillate between each other. That's number one. Once I get past that hurdle, then I start putting in every winding.
one more time. I had a head up my assitis for that moment.
So you take $2,000, you buy a bunch of wire, you would create a pattern, and then as you're creating, it has to immediately go 180 degrees from each other. So immediately has to fold back over each other. Okay.
Yep.
You build that so you can get the vortex on the top and bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've achieved that, you have non-canceling fields. Now you move on to the next step. Which patterns can I create to do the same thing? So you're going to build another 20 coils just to figure out which patterns are going to be oscillating correctly in that area. Now, decide where your frequencies need to be. Okay. Each one you can input the different frequencies because they're geometry coil. They're based on the frequency input, but there also is a reactive frequency that goes on in each one of them based on the geometry. So you have to take all that into account. You have to map all that out. The next step is how much energy are you pulling out of the center? If it's not a multiplication of over 1,000, you're not going to get there. So that's the next thing. Is that once you put this thing together, can you achieve that? Now, if you can, how does it interact with the room? Can you get the static to go out? Can you hold in that field? Does that work? Once you get to that point, now you're at the starting point.
But check this. Same exact idea, okay? Except do away with the coils and the coil geometry. Just utilize circuitry and geometry, and the electronic equivalent, so to speak, for this system of like what an ECU does with a car, so that it's modulating, and the modulation inputs are all tonal based and based off of specific frequencies in octaves, and they follow the circuitry pattern, creating the same effects. Just it's electronically controlled, and
No,
then you know what I
I,
mean. Like
I,
I mean, it's
I understand, but you can't get around the fact that when you put geometry together, that the frequency builds no matter what you do.
Of course, right, without a doubt. And you keep the resonance by just working in octaves.
But that's the kind of the thing where you put the resonance in, but you put it into all the different geometries at once. And the geometries build that beat frequency entirely as it rotates from one level to the next. It'll give you different, they have to be there. But the thing is with the geometry, because they're so straight in the wires and they're absolutely the same winding over and over again, just in a different direction, they'll give you the consistency that you need. That's
Right,
the thing.
I get it. But
Plates.
here's the thing: there's a lot of variables, right? So there's atmospheric variables. There's variables as far as getting all this stuff in sync with one another, and how all the ratios and the geometry. If it's off at all, then it's a mechanical adjustment, and so on and so forth. By electronically modulating the same exact thing through circuitry and utilizing the same exact geometries and having a variable signal that is automatically controlled, so to speak, right? To keep everything in resonance and have it build out exactly the way you want it, does away with all the finickiness potentially. And again, it's doesn't work exactly the same. Is this just are these just words? These are absolutely just words. Like I have nothing to back up what I'm saying at all. But I've been wrong before, but I've been right before too. And it's just like any shortfall that you're kind of bringing up as far as like the complication of why it's so difficult to achieve this could easily be achieved just by a computer program running a correct circuit. Like that's it. You just need to have your measurements coming in from everything real time, feeding into the thing, and then it knows exactly where it has to be and makes the adjustment on the fly to make it happen. And then all of a sudden the atmospheric variables don't matter because it's based off of the effect that you're looking to achieve, right? And it knows what parameters it needs to stay within to continuously achieve those effects. So then it would just automatically adjust its input at each level based on its measurements to be able to keep it in that range.
Mhm.
It's the whole field of thought it's directly related. It's just another way. But
look, I'm in a complete agreement that it has to be fluid switching and self-correcting in every way. Okay, I'm not going against that, but I have a feeling it's based when you do the geometry, it works itself out. The beat frequencies and everything will be harmonious when you have the right shapes in the right order. Okay, that's all I'm
I
saying.
don't disagree with that.
So all the disc and crap and all that magnets, all that garbage goes away. Okay. And then now the coil is responsible for that. So now what weight do you want it? 3 pounds and under is where it has to be. Okay. Does it need a whole giant lifting system or legs on it? Not really. It just needs a little bit of distance between it and the ground. You can set it on something for now, right? It's like a little lifting pad. Not a problem. I think a lot of the garbage goes away once you get rid of all the rotating parts and all that. And you went to the solid state. 90% of your problem is gone. But again, like you said earlier, this wasn't my project from the beginning. And in order to do my own, like I said, it's a minimum of $2,000 just to start in order to show enough progress to put it in the right perspective to see it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because if you didn't build the 100 of these things, you'd never know. So you have to build 100 of them. That's the problem with it. It's just one of those things.
Right. I mean, that is the problem. I mean, address something in the chat real quick. Skip said that I wouldn't get the spatial mode that I need with the circuit idea. I mean, well, I disclaim this. When I'm talking about a circuit, I'm not talking about a silica board necessarily, but rather more it would almost be like a 3D printed type of I don't want to call it a metamaterial because that's not necessarily what it is. Use conventional materials, but it's a fabricated circuit in 3D geometric form that would then, scratch all the same itches. So it would have aspects of the coil geometry in it in the first place, right? It's just a different interface, instead of coiling. Well, in a case of a geometry coil, it's not even coiling wire; it's literally patterning and weaving wire. So, I think that it would. It's just another way to think about it. And they do 3D print circuits now, flat. But why can't you 3D print a higher grade material surface and in any shape you want? And that's more like along the lines of what I'm talking about. And again, it's all highly theoretical. So, I mean, it's quite possible that what you're saying is correct, but I see no difference between point A and point B.
They don't have the 3D printer that I would need in order to do this because of the amount of energy going through it, fry and melt every piece of plastic you put in there.
Well, right. I mean, your material limitations are always the weak link of the system because any short circuit is massive over unity, right? Then the only difference is just your material couldn't stand the muster.
So what they do make, Joe, is a geometry coil winder. Okay,
Like a
it'll
sock knitter,
literally,
like a sock knitter.
yeah, it'll literally wind the pattern that you put it in. As soon as you dial in the numbers, it immediately makes it for you.
We've
So
talked about this before. That's rad, though. Is it a physical thing or is it just a computer
it's
program that
physical.
tells you what to do? It's a physical thing.
It runs it through a computer program, and then it physically builds it right in front of you with the wire size that you want.
That's
So,
awesome.
dude, that's what I'm
Do you
saying.
have one of these?
I don't, dude. I wish I did
How come you don't have one?
because they cost a lot of money.
Holy shit. Well, what
It's
is it?
like
It's like a
it,
sock weaver. It's like an auto knitter where you spin it and it just goes and does exactly what you need.
well, more like a 3D printer, and the motor's directed towards the side it needs to go to and wrap it around there, right?
Okay.
So yeah, but it's on Facebook. One guy built one, and I don't think he's building another one for anyone else because he uses it for his business. So
Yeah, that might affect him. Well, then again, I mean, if you could modify a 3D printer to do the same thing, you just program it like to be a CNC as opposed to instead of a 3D printer and run wire instead of filament through the head and turn the heating element off and just
now, dude,
have it go
look,
at a high rate of a high
look,
filament rate. That's it.
I'm right there with you because it gives you consistency in how you pull the wire and how tight it is and everything else. Yes, dude, right there with you. But like I said, this whole thing, you get into that, that's all an investment to do it. You know what I mean? It's not like, hey, let me just start tomorrow and I'll just wind one coil because I could do that all day. But to really get into it the right way and get everything you want, man, it's a minimum starting point. And that's,
Yeah.
like I said, minimum, because it's like $100 something for a roll of wire. You can go through a roll of wire in like a day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what a beautiful art of saying nothing. Yeah, listen, man, I'm a professional at saying nothing. So if you ever want to sit there and try to have a conversation with me, I could talk to you for 3 hours and say absolutely nothing. I challenge.
Oh, yeah. He wants us to build a replicator, Joe.
Yeah,
So he can get all his sweets. That's what he keeps saying.
that's fair. Listen, I want a replicator too. I don't know if it's for sweets or what, but you know, as long as I
Joe
don't
would
have
be
to
over.
deal what my fucking doppelgangers are doing, like because I'd be sending them out to do all sorts of trouble for me.
Oh, dude, it'd be like a sweatshop in my garage. There'd all be me in a sweatshop, and I'd be controlling me. That's terrible sounding, right? Build this
Yeah.
coil. Oh, that's funny.
If it wasn't a huge national security risk, I'd say that you should just sponsor a few people from China to come help you. But they'd probably go back and tell their little communist, overlords
Oh
what
yeah,
they're doing. then they'd get blasted out of the sky like on their way back to defecting, like they did in Ashton world over there.
Nice. Hey, I just want to say to Tim. Tim's been a member for 5 months from the beginning when I started my membership. Right on, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate that, Tim. Awesome, bro.
So, yeah, but that's kind of the next level of it, and that's probably why I haven't started it, because I know where it needs to go. I'm not an expert in it yet, you know. So I've been kind of working with what I have and trying to get that working and solving all the problems. So it's one of those things. If you get something like that to lift and you can, show it to other people, they'll help you out with all the money to fund you to get to the next, because they want to do it too. So, you know what I mean? One of those coil mile winders would be in the mail. Trust me. If you got something to lift off the ground, they'd be more than happy to give it to you. But they want to see some kind of result first. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, kind of the way. You got to have one of two things: either something to show that works and show it freely and often, or you have to have a paper that makes total sense, has all the math in line, and that somehow you like LSD dosed like a physicist to sign off on or something like that. Be like, oh, you see reality now, sign this, buddy. And then, like without one of those two things, like good luck. That's sort of what it
Yeah.
is. Like
Yeah.
not for anything, man. That's like stressful when you're working on something to get to for any sort of credibility. Even if you're not looking for huge amounts of money or anything out of it, if you just want to further your own work, but everybody's always naysaying you, like that's frustrating as all hell.
Oh, it is.
It's one of the reasons that I don't even mess around like with anything. It's just like I can't bother like reaching a point where I'm like I can see the end here, but how am I gonna? You end up like Tesla, where you're like I'm so close, I just need a little bit more, and everyone's like, no, screw that.
Yeah.
You need to feed friggin' pigeons and fall in love with the bird or nothing like that. Like I need to die in a hotel either.
No, thank you, man. I'll be honest with you, Joe. Keep making discoveries and new stuff all the time. It's not that, dude. I keep myself busy. So, yeah.
And it's
Oh,
good.
well.
I would like to see that grav well work out though. So if you could, if you ever feel up to it, you let me know. I want to see it.
No, I keep looking at it. And, yeah, I'll get it working, Joe. It's not that it doesn't work. I don't know. I need a material that's like an electret, and they're not there yet. I cannot put a static field in this without it.
Hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense. It just won't work. Like, I cannot physically put anything in there without it.
Can't
I
put
mean,
like you can't make like a micro Van de Graaff and put it in the middle.
it all crosses each other, so the field is completely out of whack. Like, it won't build out the fields properly because you have. I don't know that I can explain it. I cannot put the wires to it to get it right.
Okay, so back in the '90s and '80s, I suppose, but definitely in the '90s, right? They used to have gyro brake sets, right, for bicycles. Basically, how it works is it just works like a so you could spin your handlebars and it maintains your brake connection without
Yes, I
twisting the
remember those.
wires up, right? You remember those? Well,
Yes.
you just need the electric version of that, dude.
Yeah.
That's like I'm sorry that that's like a wild oversimplification of it. Like I haven't put thought into engineering that, but that's doable, and there's no reason why it's not. It's similar to a. It would be similar to a brush situation.
No, like I said, I understand. It's just there's too many spheres to do it. It's easy to do one, can't do the other. It's I Joe. I tried. I tried several times and I couldn't get it to work. I literally need that field in there.
You need
So-
one point. You just need one wire with a point of rotation that keeps connection, man. I'm seeing it in my head right now what it looks like, and it's just like,
But it can't just be one wire attached. It would have to brush the entire surface going around, then skip the next one, then touch the next one. That's the problem. It would be so much easier to paste an electric in between the shell, the two
That's-
pieces, and then let it rotate all day. And then the other field builds out in layers, so it'd be fine. It's so much more difficult to run electricity in there, and then I'd have
I
the
mean,
same
it is
exact-
definitely so much more difficult. But I was kind of under the impression that's what you were trying to work with. So,
No,
by the way, I'm
It-
listening. I'm getting up for a second though, but I'm listening.
not a problem. So, Skip, you had a question here. Would you improve the anti-gravity device by using geometry coils for solid state? The answer is yes. So, as a matter of fact, if you look back in my videos, I did one on the, oh man, who was that? Sal Paez and the Superforce. And it's all based on a geometry coil and how it's used for anti-gravity. Because to break the Schwinger limit, it cannot be rotating discs. It has to be rotation based on the energy going to the coil. To break the Schwinger limit. Yeah. So and then you get everything in there that you want. You get the leaky capacitor that you want. You get the compression on the inside you want. You get both fields that you want because you're creating resonance in there. So you'd be able to create that inside the coil field in there. You have to use a cold energy circuit, which is not a problem. I already have it. But yeah, it would solve a lot of problems. So.
Cool.
No, the Rodin coil is built differently. There's 1/1000th of a percent of energy that I would need. That's how much different it is. There's not enough compression between layers. You got to remember, a geometry coil is 1,500 layers minimum in compression with each other in field breakout. So a Rodin coil is 2, maybe 4 fields in there that you can get the max. You're not getting the compression you need.
Right. There's not enough vectors.
Yeah, that's
Not
definitely.
enough vectors. You can get good flow that way, but it's not, the density's not there.
Yeah. No, the flow, it tells you a lot about the flow. It's absolutely a beautiful coil for that. And it can work in an over unity situation. I do believe that for sure, but it's not the right coil for it.
Yeah. So then what are Rodin, so what's good about Rodin coils then? Who said there was? That's terrible, but
No, it's a good coil.
yeah, it is.
It's instead of using a 1-to-1 transformer, you can use it for a 1-to-20 transformer. It's much better than you think it is. It's the practical use that we use them for today to spin magnets, which is junk. It's not what you want to use it for. So you have to use it for the right reasons in saturation in a joule thief circuit. That's what it is. The over unity comes from that. And then anything you could do to bring down the heat in that coil in that joule thief circuit is more energy you get out of it. So it is what they say it is, a great transformer because of the saturation level. And it also is potentially one great over unity device if you run a cold energy circuit. If you run heat in that circuit, you won't get it. And you have to use batteries by the way, on that. You can't use wall circuit plug. Won't work. Doesn't work the same. You need that chemical process. So got a new shed for your dedicated to solid state electronics. Nice. That's awesome. You can see behind me, man, I converted my garage There's no cars in here, man. This is my little domain. It's pretty sweet actually. So I get to work on whatever I want on my table over here, and then just have this looking cool.
Yeah, lucky you live in Southern California where you don't need your garage for your car.
Yeah, it's true. Nice. I don't use AI to tell me things. Not like that. I'll use it to write something, but I won't use it for that.
I'll tell you what. I was talking to AI today, and I sent just a snip to Nathan. I thought he was gonna hang me on the fucking cross. I was like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm not. I'm. I'm not saying to read this verbatim, and I'm not saying that everything in here is like the word of God. I'm just simply saying that like here's some information that I didn't have to look up any other way, bro. Like, come on, like like I asked it a question and it answered my question. Like, what's the problem?
No, look, I think what you guys do with AI is great. Okay. If I fed it every bit of information that I had, AI would be like next level, bro. It'd be like, okay,
Okay, but here's the thing, man. When you're using AI, now mind you, what you just said is the thing, okay? What you're feeding, if you fed it information, then it's gonna have the information. Okay. I get that aspect of it. But forget feeding it information for a second, right? That's like saying like, you're giving something to a tool. You know what I mean? Like, just so don't give anything to the tool. Use it as the tool.
okay,
Like
hold
that's
on.
all.
If the AI was mine and mine alone, okay, not a problem. The fact that it's shared with everybody else is a problem. And it's because of the data you have to put in there. Do I want people to learn how to make lasers that cut through just about anything? No. Do I want you to be able to affect the human body at a distance with resonance? No. Okay, but do I have to put that in there in order to make thrusters? Yes. So if I start using AI, there's a problem for everybody else. Okay, not a problem for me. I just get the feds knocking on my door the next day. Okay, then I'd be done.
Here's what you gotta realize though. Okay. When you're using AI as a tool to help you through whatever problem it is, and then you're gonna go verify the information either experimentally or logically or with other resources, right? You're just playing you're not giving it information. You're just kind of you could give it a little bit of information and ask it to postulate on it, and then it'll give you a postulation. You're not feeding that information to it because it's using more defined published, I should say, sources, right, to actually extrapolate its response. So I'm not saying that it doesn't learn off of the conversation at all. But what I am saying is that, it could be used as a tool to further your knowledge, and it's not necessarily going to utilize that knowledge as part of its data set on the subject necessarily. Like either that or, because if it did that, every stupid inquiry somebody had would just result in it getting dumber and dumber and not more intelligent, right?
Look,
There's no
I
way to move that
understand.
out.
I understand. If I was Tony Stark, it would be no problem. Go in there, tell my AI everything, have it build everything for me. Not a problem. Okay. We're not in that world. We're in the world where you tell AI something and it programs AI. That's where they're at. They're programming AI with the stuff that we're putting into it. Because when you deal with stuff like this, Joe, they're matching throughout the entire thing that they get. Who said that a bunch of times, right? And based on that, they're formulating responses. Okay. So if you have consistently things that work and then they start seeing that they work, they're going to postulate the whole freaking thing. You don't even need physics anymore. That's why they gave it to a computer last time, the word for it. You know what I mean? Because at this point, you're training it how to do your job. And I don't need it to do that. If it was local and with me only, that'd be fine. But the fact that it's not, I cannot do that.
Okay. I mean, listen, that's fair enough.
So, but I understand the tool part of it. If it was, like I said, like a Tony Stark, is say, hey, Wednesday, what's this? You know what I mean? They refer back to what you did before, whatever, and tell you the correct answer. I'd be all good with that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we're talking about here.
Right. I'm going to throw it out there. It's exactly what I was talking about, is using it just like you said. But, it's what it is.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, I here's the thing. I embraced AI before it was really widely available. Okay. And I always treated it with a grain of salt, but I embraced it from a very early point of it being publicly available. Right. Then it fell into the null zone of stuff, where we kind of still are right now. Right. Where it's just very present. Okay. And that's where the sediments, like you're saying, are right now. But here's the thing. If you don't embrace it, you're going to look around and not know what world you live in anymore very, very, very soon, because like this is just the way it's going. So, you know, it, it's like car phones back in the 80s. People used to have them in their car, and then there were mobile phones, but not a lot of people had them. But then all of a sudden, everybody kind of started to have one, and now if you don't have one, homeless people have smartphones, right? Legitimate. Like the
No, I
state
get
would
it.
be like, "You're homeless." Well, I mean, how are you going to call someone? Have yourself a smartphone with data and everything. It's just simply that present, right? And yeah, okay, it would be beneficial, and many people do say, you know what, I'm just not going to participate in this, and they make that conscious decision, and that's fine. But to say that then they're really fully participating in society tends to be a little bit of a questionable thing at that point. It's
I
kind of
understand.
it is. I mean, it's just the way that the world is going, and it's like you're not going to stop it, so you might as well use it.
Well, okay. I embraced AI for my theme song. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So there's a win for you.
right.
Uh, but like I said, I'm not going to use it for the stuff I do here.
No, I get it.
I mean, if you wanted a mathematical formula to build Tesla coil, that's fine. You know what I
Right.
mean? No, not a problem there.
Well, I mean, but this turns into like a situation where it's like, let's say that the answer you're looking for is in a book, right? And you don't ask about the book, but I know that the answer's in the book. You know what I mean? If I tell you the answer's in the book and you're like, well, if I didn't find it myself or I can't, then I don't want to know about it. Like that's silly, because the answer's in the book. You see? It's like
But,
like
uh,
you
but
become
that's not what I'm
resistant to
saying.
information wherever it's come from.
That's not what I'm saying, though, Joe. If it was just a research tool, right? And I wanted to look something up and find it, then yeah, that's fine. I don't have any problem with AI in that point. I'm saying you teach it something, okay, and then you have a bunch of other people that now their search result is now filled based on what you taught it. That could be harmful.
I mean, right, but I mean, who's the like? I get that. I mean, but then again, you know, we come on here and we talk about whatever it is, and then this is searchable through. So, like, what's the difference? I can, and I have, and I can, and I whatever, and it's a thing. You can go on to Chat GPT and ask Chat GPT about the Old Man Builds channel on YouTube, and it'll tell you your name, people that have been on the show before, the general premise of the things we talk about. If you go into specifics, it knows certain episodes and not others, whatever. But like it knows all about it, and that's because you put it here.
Mhm.
So like I mean, yeah, I get it. There's a certain degree of control, because, like, you could always not say something here or not say something there, but at the end of the day, it's consuming the information regardless, and that's how they're going to end up. You know, they're going to end up saying that AGI is hit at some point. Where it's just as capable as a person. You know, when that's going to be, I don't know, and what that actually means in reality, I don't know either. But it's probably going to be sooner than later. Where it's just as capable as anybody else of finding information, as a real human being. So,
AI loves old man pills. That's funny. No, like I said, look, I keep certain files on my other computer. This one goes online. I've been hacked 4 or 5 times by now, and I can tell you they get everything that's on there. There's no question about it. So even at that, I can't put any of that other stuff on here. It doesn't work out for me at all. So yeah, I just leave it on the other one, dude. Keep an offline thing. Now, they don't sell AI like they did back in the 90s, where you can go down and say, I want this computer program. Give me the disk for it. You know what I mean? I take them home and I have it. No, you're connected to the internet. You download it from the internet, which means at some point they have a port of access to your computer. Anytime that you put that computer online, they can use that point of access to get in. That's not okay with me. I love the way it used to be. Let me go buy the program. I own the program. I don't
Yep.
want to pay your monthly fee. I don't want your subscription. I don't want your over bossy crap that you keep sending me. Just get out of my life after I buy it, okay? Until I got a problem that I can't answer. That's all I want from them.
Well, the problem is always the same, Nathan, and it's been the same, and they keep on exploiting the same exact things to make money off of everybody at every angle that they can, and and that's a great example with the program situation, right? You used to buy the program one time, and that was it. And it used to be crazy because if you bought that program back when, not only did you get years worth of support and updates, but like the updates sometimes were like fruitful ones, which
Yeah, good
basically
one.
kept it right. They would keep the program relevant for an extended period of time until an entirely new version was worthy of coming out. And um, they did away with that model just under the understanding that why pay once when you could just continuously pay, and and if you lower the price point at that point, because let's say that you bought the program and you'd use it for 5 years, right? Well, now let's say you bought the you pay the subscription on the program, and in 12 months, you paid for the program. But then all these other people that wouldn't have bought the program, they only bought it for a month, but they bought it for a month. And that's kind of the key point, that like so not only do they make 5 times the money off of you because now you've had that subscription for 5 years, but they've also had these people drop in for 1 or 2 months worth of subscription. And then why only do that with programs, right? Why not do that with the TV you watch? Why not do that with your YouTube subscription? If you don't want the ads to come up or whatever, you got to pay them. And it just never, it's in every aspect of life at this point. Food delivery, same thing, right? Well, remember when you used to be able to call for a pizza and they employed a kid to come drop pizza off at your house, Chinese food, free delivery, right? Yeah, they don't do that anymore. Why are they going to hire somebody when they can have a third party service come in and scoop money off of it? And then, all this shit. It's the model, man.
No, look, I'm not disagreeing with any of that, Joe. I understand it. I would just like to keep my stuff localized. That's all I'm saying.
I get it. Right. You're self compartmentalizing.
Yes. Because look, if I tell my Windows program not to update my computer, right, to leave it alone, it still updates my computer. Okay.
Yeah, it does.
So, you know what I mean? Like if they can't fix that, then what use is it for everything else? If I tell Google to stop asking me for my stupid address or pinpoint my location, and it keeps doing it, it's like, hello, I already said no a million times, shut up. And they keep doing it until you get so frustrated you just give in. I absolutely hate it. It's like, I don't need that kind of stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, limited state does bring up a good point, which you you legitimately could download an AI model locally on your hard drive and run it to your heart's content, and ask it whatever the hell you want to, and remove any sort of bullshit filters that they put on it, et cetera, and your queries or your responses don't go anywhere outside of your machine. So there is practicality of use there, but you need to be able to set up your machine to do that, and you got to have the machine
Yeah.
running that. That's it.
Okay, so what happens to the automatic update program that itself runs in your system and then breaks down your code in little bits so that you have to update it because it's actually garbage code. It goes in there and it dismantles your code so that you require an update. Windows does that all the time. They make
Right.
your machine slower. They put clogs in there, all this garbage, right? So when you have to update it, then they get your stuff. That's the thing. If it was truly by the disk, it's yours, do it at home, not a problem. No problem whatsoever using it in that fashion. Okay.
Right.
But the current way the model is, no, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, limited state kind of clarified that on that. Right. I agree because I mean I know that to be correct and true, but like if your comfort level's not there with it, and it's not something you're gonna like you've embraced anyway for whatever reason, I mean, then there's no sense in going through those motions. Just that's for you. Like me, I embrace it in a different way. I think that I embrace it more like what the chat's kind of describing, which is, as a tool, source of inspiration, good way to sit there and break a, mental block on something. If it's like, hey, I have this thought, where can I go with this? Like I've been stuck on it for a little while. It could kind of push it in a direction, and then you choose whether or not that's the direction you actually want to do. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. So chat GPT to summarize a video. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah, that's
I do that because I don't want to write it out. I'm lazy.
that's a good point you bring up, Mike. In fact, that's a use that I talk to Brandon sometimes, and like he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I literally type into chat GPT like, my friend said this. Can you tell me what he means? And then I send it to him, and I'm like, here you go. Exactly the same use. Yeah. And it's good like that, man. It actually knows what you're talking about.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, I mean, I guess we all got our own point of view, man. If you're doing it at home and you got it compartmentalized, I mean, good for you. I think it's what I mean, something I would like to do. I just don't trust the programs today to do it. And don't get me wrong, if I sat in a government facility and they had one, I'd probably tinker with it every day because I know it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? I know it's staying in that program. Then I don't have a problem because they basically own you at that point anyway. So what the heck? It'd be different. You know what I mean? But
Yeah. I get GPT to rate my sexiness out of 10. Always an 11. Right on, brother. Right on.
oh, nice. That's amazing. Oh man. Yeah, dude, who wouldn't want that, by the way? It's just like Elon Musk puts a chip in your head. If it was just with you and you controlled everything, yeah, might as well. I mean, we can't even get them to stop stealing our credit card just walking by. You know what I mean? They got these machines. They don't even have to take it out of your wallet. They just walk by you. I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
I'll tell you what, you wanna like make make real money, you know, like I'm on these dating apps and stuff like that. You know, just be the guy that makes an add-on that literally sits there, and after you set up your profile, it just rips through all the meaningless conversations and likes and comments and this, that, the other thing based on a persona that you set up with the thing, and then basically tells you once you get a phone number. Like, you know, have that be like, if you come up with that, you could charge as much as one dating site for somebody to subscribe to that program. Okay, if it ran across multiple dating sites that would otherwise charge you all sorts of money, you know, by actively using, you know, and you just use it for free, knowing that it's running in the background. Like, you want to be, you want to be rich, yo, go do that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I think you took this out of context, limited. If it was secure, I don't mind the chip in my head. The fact that I don't believe it is secure in any way, I wouldn't get the chip. So
Yeah, no chip in the head. Thanks.
yeah. So you pay for these dating apps?
I try not to as much as humanly possible. Like, I don't really have money for that. So, but then it restricts you. You see, then you only have so many likes that you could put per day, or in order to talk to somebody, you need to match with them first, or all these things. And it's just monotonous, you know, like you got to go in every single day, exhaust whatever you get for free, and then hope for the best and whatever. But if you had something passively doing that in the background, you know, and then engaged in these boring conversations that they are half the time at the forefront, you know, and it knew the tactic of exactly how to extract, you know, like the date out of the app. You know what I mean? Like, it can engage that conversation and just keep on pointing it in that direction. Then once it gets it to you, it's like, bing, you got one. Then at that point, you know, like, it'd be all right. Because
Yeah.
tell you, man, like, I'm not like, it's people suck, and then they get like, you try to talk to them, and it's like, well, okay, so what do I talk to this person about? They have 3 things on their profile, you know. And none of it's engaged. It's not like you're gonna make great conversation over these 3 things. So, and then if they don't give you something, so now you got to make small talk with them, which is fine. But like, oh, so how's your day going? Oh, it's a shit day. It's a Wednesday. Yeah, well, no kidding. You know, like, where did these conversations go?
That's so bad.
Yeah, man.
I don't know, man. I'm so glad that you know what I mean, didn't have to worry about that.
No, consider yourself lucky, man. Like, man, it's so whack. I've been like, you know, maybe I'll go to like the non-denominational church. You know what that's like? Non-denominational church? What is this? I mean, I'm gonna see someone talk to them. They're gonna be like, "Sorry, I'm a lesbian." You know, like, God Christ. Anyway,
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
went in
are
there.
you one of those lesbians that like guys too, or is like, like, you know,
What is it going to take to put you back on solids?
yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. Oh, man.
Anyway,
You're better off with the mine.
listen, if it ever stops raining here, I'm going back. It just doesn't ever stop raining. Which is not surprising because it didn't stop snowing here during the winter. Like, what do I expect?
Dude, I'll be honest with you, Joe. I couldn't get a wife these days, dude. I like a hermit at the house. Okay, I generally don't like to go out in public a whole lot unless I absolutely have to, like literally. So, yeah, I don't even know how I would talk to people. I told the wife, I said, "There's no chance of me ever moving on." You know what I mean? I'm just, I wouldn't do it. But,
Yeah.
like, because you got to remember, and this is from my perspective, there's 10 years of shit you're going to catch. You know what I mean? From this woman, whoever it is coming up, that I've already invested that 10 years and I've caught all that crap. Okay. I'm already past that stage. So, yeah, there's no chance to do
Hey,
that twice.
listen, in 10 years, My case is 18.
Wow.
Anyway,
I just
nah,
meant the major stuff, not all the little minor things.
yeah. It sucks because like where I live, like it's a very shallow gene pool here, very shallow gene pool, and it ain't the best genetics kicking around either. Like I swear to God, like I look at people's teeth and I'm like, what the fuck? Is it in the water? What's going on? I don't know what it is. Either that or you're all related. I'm not sure, but I used to say the same thing about like a town or two on Long Island where I used to live. Ironically, that's all where the Grumman plumes came from. They had Grumman manufacturing there back in the day, and they
Oh my
contaminated all the
God.
groundwater, and everybody there looked like a friggin' goblin or something. But I used to go to the supermarket in that town, and I look around, and I'd be like, man, everybody here looks like the same brand, man. Like they're all the same brand, they're all goblins.
Dude, that's so terrible.
Yeah. Thanks, Grumman. Military industrial complex hard at work, poisoning your groundwater.
Oh. Oh wow. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you gotta get out of New York a little bit. Go see the world.
Yeah, oh, that'd be nice.
Nice. Well, that's pretty cool. Verifying the physics correct operation. If you could trust the physics are 100% correct, that'd be awesome. But unfortunately, you're going to end up with a doppelganger in a different multiverse, and they won't know how to get it right. They'll have to bounce ideas off of each other to fix it.
Yeah, all I could say is that reality is stranger than fiction sometimes. So stuff happens.
He says, "Show pirates shady chat GPT." Oh,
You have all these like NPCs walking around the world, where they're just like you wonder if they actually exist, sometimes, right? And then you realize something that explains parallel universes when it really boils down to it. That every time you branch off, you know, that person's consciousness shifts into some other kind of reality that it is, right? Where you are the NPC and they're an NPC in your world. You see what I mean? It's just like but it's relevant. You know,
wow.
and that kind of explains it all. Like how you just have these people that you wonder. It's like, yo, I don't understand how this person like actually exists, and it's because they kind of don't. They just play a whole nother role in this world, and their brain isn't here. It's like
It's
playing
such a
another role
terrible way to
somewhere
look at it.
It is, man, but it's probably true.
Like parent swap, like wife
Yeah,
swap, that show.
basically, except rather than it being switching a body, it's like just like they're in another reality entirely. Like, and it's very little association with the reality that you exist in. It's like interesting.
Parent trap. Dude, I can see that
Parent Trap.
because,
Yeah, I went to high school with Lindsay Lohan too.
oh man,
Speaking of Parent Trap,
dude,
but Freaky Friday, that's the one she was in, right? And Parent Trap. Both.
I have no idea, bro. Not
Yeah.
not my cup of tea.
Yeah. She's a dumb bitch anyway.
Oh man. Yeah, I guess it's pretty terrible about seeing people as NPCs out there. Then the old lady that walked her dog is a non-player character, just walking the dog, letting the poo in the. Oh man, that's bad.
Right. Oh, hi, Jane. How are you? Oh, hi, Joe. Oh, how's your dog doing? Can I pet him? Yes. Yes, you can. It's fine. You know. Then she goes
So
inside
dumb.
and disappears. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, it's terrible. Oh. But I'm still stuck in this one. Yeah, we all are.
yeah, you experience Mean Girls in real life, bro. I don't know about Mean Girls, more like time wasting fucking people like that. You know, they like the new thing that I noticed is that chicks will like talk to you now, right? But like that's what that's all they want. That's what you're giving them what they need by giving them attention by talking to them.
You're in the
So when
friend
it
zone.
comes, right, well, it's not even a friend zone thing because it's like they don't even have like an intention with you whatsoever. Like there's no intention to even be like real friends or anything like that. They just know that they could fucking send you a picture and then you'll say something nice to them. Or if they're
Oh,
bored out of convenience, you know, all of a sudden you're talking about them or anything like that. You know, you're talking to them. So you're providing a benefit there for them. But like they'll sit there and string you along. And I would bet you half of the ones that do that are probably like married and masquerading as single or in some kind of serious relationship or literally just like single, no time to date, but it's scratching the itch. And it's like super present, super present, you know, and then not to mention the ones that'll sit there and like, you know, have you bring the, you know, go out with them or whatever, just so they could get you for like a meal or whatever. You know, they try to be cool about it, like, oh, you want to split the bill or something like that. But like, you know, you try to keep it real. The answer to that should probably be yes. You know, like it should probably be yes.
wow. That's terrible. That's even worse than it used to be, man.
Oh, it's bad, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Might sound pretty sexist, but like put women back at like home, like taking care of a house or something, and then you know, like that that way,
Kind
like they're
It's just kind of sexist. Yeah.
yeah, that is what it is. Frankly, the ones when you talk to them, that's most of them will tell you that's what they ultimately want, but they're not willing to do anything to put themselves in that position either. So whatever. Yeah, you
Oh
know that.
man.
But yeah, like the struggle's real out there. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Hmm. Wow. Whew. Crazy stuff. Yeah, dude. You get to the age, you know what I mean, where you start looking at things differently. Like these young kids, man, total different universe than when I grew up. It's not even the same at all now. And I guess my mom was telling me about this. She went through the same thing. You know what I mean? Back in the what was it, 20s and 30s or whatever it was back in the day. I don't think it was that old. Probably like the 40s. But it was the same thing. They didn't have anything. Still have house out in Jersey in the sticks. So they had like nothing going around them, and there was a farm next door, stuff like that. You know what I mean? And they used to bathe in a tub of water. You know what I mean? And you had to heat it on the stove back in those days. And then now everything is like, oh, you get this shower and you get this hose to wash you off with in the shower that has all these different heads on it. You know what I mean? They get all kinds of weird stuff now. Or they have fryer things. I don't know, just all kinds of weird stuff that they didn't have back in the day.
I don't know. It's like society's not as simple or wholesome as it once was. I guess. I say wholesome loosely. I don't mean like oh well, gee golly or whatever. I mean like you know wanting to actually have like a meaningful communication or relationship with another human being. Like that seems to have found its way into obscurity.
They don't
Like
have like
they're next to the ground
bars there.
flyer somewhere.
They don't have like a bar there.
I mean, I'm not big to go out to bars and stuff, but I mean, I've went out a couple of times. People are nice enough. It's just I don't know. There's not a lot of opportunity here.
Hmm.
Nothing going on, and that's okay, I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't going out to the bar to drink, by the way. Go out there, shoot some darts, play a little pool. You know what I mean? Hang out, see if there's any cool people out there. You don't have to get blitzed.
Yeah, so I actually somebody recently did something that I thought to do and was like, no, I'm not that level of desperate. I guess I'll feel a little guilty talking about it, but it is what it is. But somebody put up on like a community page, like basically, I take care of my parents. That's sort of what I do, most of the time. I don't really have any friends. You know, I'm just simply looking to like meet people. That that was sort of it. And then said, I'm at the diner. I'm wearing an orange hat, and if you want to, come by, I'm going to be here for like 2 hours. If you want to sit next to me and have a conversation, that would be awesome. You know, and I actually messaged him and I was like, dude, I'm actually in a similar boat and I have no friends either, except for like one. Like where I live, I was like, I'll meet up with you for dinner one night. I know what it's like not to, uh, to eat dinner alone every night. That sucks. you know. So, I did and I met him and stuff, hoping I was gonna get a new friend out of it. I guess I sort of did because, why not? But I mean, for me to say that the guy wasn't fucking like a little whacked out and strange and shit, like is like no, he was a little whacked out and strange. Like, and I'm whacked out and strange, but like he ain't whacked out and strange the same way I am. So I, like it is what it is. I invited the guy
Well,
like over for some barbecue one day or something like that. And, I would say he'll definitely come. But so yeah, now I have a new friend, but he's a fucking strange dude. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even find like a normal friend. It is what it is.
nice.
But
Yeah.
you appreciate the things you have when they're given. That's it. So you want company, you ask for company, and then you have an opportunity at company, you pass it up, then you don't get to complain about it. I took it up, now I get to complain.
Oh, yeah. No, I can see it, man. Yeah. I don't, like I said, I don't socialize a lot. I talk to my neighbor a lot. That's about it. He's a good guy. So,
Show
yeah,
them the
that's about all I
coils and
do.
stuff.
What's that?
Show them any of the experiments that you do.
No, I don't. I generally don't show many people anything, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? We usually talk about the neighborhood stuff and things like that. You know what I mean? Kind of just we're shooting the breeze,
I
whatever's
hear.
going on.
I
So,
mean, you know better than me, but man, if you're like, yo, let me show you what I do, I'd be like, fuck it, no way. It'd be like, oh, don't touch that.
oh,
Here it goes.
dude, I have so many people over at my house. If that's what I did, they'd be like, okay, we're going to go have beers at Nathan's house and see what we can't shock ourselves with. That's what it'd be.
Yeah,
We'd end up playing, what's that, quarters game? And then
yeah.
whoever gets to get zapped by the coil, if you drink a shot and get a zap. That's that's about how it ended up working. There's always some torture device to get me.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, zap you. Oh man, yeah, it freaks people out when I put my hands in the water, man. And they're like, "What are you doing? There's a lot of electricity going on there. We see the sparks." And then I put my hands in the water, freaks them right out. So,
I'm not reading the shanty, dude. I can't even read that. It's not in English. Anyway.
oh man, yeah.
Yeah, right. Which is why I can't read it because you just sent it. I can't close out my phone right now. But so Brandon does this super irritating thing. Okay, he talks to Grok, which is AI, right? But
Okay.
he has Grok answer him as a pirate.
Nice.
And it is so indiscernible as to what's being said. With like heavy pirate lingo left and right, and it's also wildly rude, which is kind of funny. But yeah. But he said these things are like paragraphs long, and I'm trying to read them, and I'm just like, well, if I wasn't dyslexic before, I certainly am now, because like I'm reading this, my eyes are going left and right with words I don't even know. Anyway,
Oh my god, dude.
yeah, it's funny that he could get it to answer like a pirate.
Oh. Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, I feel like in terms of like the stuff that we're doing over here, like I feel like I need an update from Bernie, man. Like I feel like Bernie's been up to some really rad stuff lately, and like I just haven't had a chance to probe him on it yet.
Well, so he's got some kind of thing. He says he's got, and I won't make the same claim he did. He's got the next level particles going on, right? So we're all kind of waiting for him to do a show explaining everything, right? And we'll see it trickle in when he puts out the message on his post, stuff like that. But then, even at 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm awake and I click on his show because he's always doing something at night, that's not on there. Okay. Usually we're looking at ancient symbols or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Or places he goes to, things like that. But I'm not getting the one that I really want. I'm not getting the, hey, I broke matter and I changed it into this or terraformed it into that.
yeah. I think that all of the monoatomics that he has going on play a direct role in like the type of circuitry that I was describing before. Like it's just a matter of laying that crap out, and yeah, I'm telling you, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. He's got to take it to that next level. I think he has, but I don't know. Well, I'm gonna have to probe him on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, think about it. He's breaking down the material to next to nothing. Then he's structuring the water. If he structures the water in certain ways, then to have different materials in certain places, he creates automatic batteries going on. So then
Mhm.
it starts to mutate already. Yeah, he's got a whole thing that is like a giant world that could be like a hive mind in itself if he does it right. And
So, so there's an interesting analogation to that. It's like that I'm just kind of making the connection on now, right? There's guys that make synthetic opals, okay? And what they do is they take the silica dioxide and they break it down into different monoatomic structures, right? And it makes these powders, and depending on the angle of the formation of the very very small particle, will depend on what light color it flashes back. Then what they do is they
okay.
put it into solution and they allow it to settle out in its own natural form to create a synthetic opal that will actually refract light back at different wavelengths, based on how it ultimately settles back
Hmm.
in. And then once they have this pellet of silicon dioxide, they just resin infuse it so it becomes solid, and then it holds that structure. But it's self-structuring, and and they could control to a certain degree what refraction color they're producing in solution, and being able to control that angle of refraction to decide the color. Okay, that's the critical element to what Bernie's doing as far as the structuring is concerned. So if you look at how they structure those different geometries at that level, and then you apply it to different types of elements and materials, then you could come up with hybrids of the actual material being formed,
Hmm.
that falls out of solution. So because it's got self-organizing properties based on what you're introducing into it. So I think that that's awesome. I think that that's where it needs to, the direction. If he's not there already, that's the direction it needs to go. Yeah, and there's
Interesting.
videos. Yeah, and there's videos out there too of how they produce these synthetic opals. And actually, the synthetic opals have, outside of just novel use, like or novelty use, I should say, and it's got novel use. Like, I heard something about these opals being highly thermoactive, and they could be used in refrigerants.
Really?
So that's just a whole nother angle of it, and it's usually something that only occurs naturally.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, I definitely got something going on. I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah,
Oh man, there's like a whole conversation going on with Brendan and
John
Superman.
saying Ormus is programmable via temperature and boiling temperatures. Well, I can understand that. Whatever it's in solution too would determine the rate of boil and the degree that the temperature that it boils at. If it's not water, which could directly result in a structuring difference also.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Contact lens that's infrared. Yes, I did watch the video. So in China, that they're developing a contact lens you can see in infrared. I would like them to develop one where we can see fields. Then we're talking. So
Yeah, they make that already. It's called LSD.
see the field around the
The
shrooms and
the
then
field. The few of them. LSD, DMT, you know.
yeah. Oh man. Yeah, you see everything like it's in the 70s. Oh, color splashes everywhere and yeah, no thanks.
I actually have this I'm gonna have to get some. I'm gonna ask him the next time I see him, and then I'll share it because it's actually this good and interesting. But there's like this old guy that lives next to me, and he's like really strange. Okay, and he's like also not all there. Okay, but like everything he says is like wild, like wildly inappropriate, mostly out of context. I
Okay.
just have a high tolerance for this, so like I mean, I reluctantly put up with it sometimes. But he is a nice enough guy, I suppose. But he's talked on multiple occasions to me randomly, like will walk up to me and start talking to me about like how he did all these drugs and stuff, and like how he used to love to do LSD back in the day, and this and that, the other thing. And then he tells me how he like sits up, in his apartment and just like draws for like hours on end, and he'll work on like a 1 inch section at a time, for like hours on end. And I was like thinking to myself, like, what could this even be about? Then he showed me a picture of it. I was like, holy shit. And it was all just geometric, frigging intersecting geometries and black and white blocks and stuff. With like, I was like, yo, yo,
That sounds really cool actually.
yeah, yeah, wildly cool and very good. I was shocked. Like, you should never judge a book by its cover, but I was fucking shocked. It was really that good. I
Wow.
Like, this guy is like border, like I can't even believe like he's free in society. To be honest with you, like he's said stuff to me before where I'm like, oh no, man, like I'm like, yeah. But yeah, then he showed me that. I was like, that's crazy. I can't even believe it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get him to share a couple. I'll get him to like text me a couple of pictures. So I'm gonna show it because it's crazy geometries and intersect. Like it's relevant. Is all I'm saying. Like I saw
Nice.
that, I was like, wow, this is relevant.
Dude, that'd be cool. Definitely cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Yanni says urea is amazing. Also, nitrogen. Yeah, urea creates very interesting fractal crystal patterns when it dries out on surfaces. It goes to show how self-structuring it is. It's got unique properties. Mount Thunder, thank you, brother.
Yeah,
Much
right on.
appreciated.
Thank you. I send you using my ZPE power products once it's finalized. That would be great for portable power source for your Tesla coil. Dude, I would love that. Dude, right on, man.
And he
Love to see
paid
how
you
it
to
works.
tell you that you could use it.
Yeah, thank you for that too.
You're
Yeah,
the man, bro.
yeah, right on. Dude, I love stuff like that. You give me something that self-powers my Tesla coil, I use it all day. Right on, man. Thank you again. Awesome. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, man. I kind of today, like I said, I was kind of doodling. I kind of get on that track, because I never put any sparks out of those coils, man. But I said, you know what? We're doing it today. So was over there just soldered and soldered and soldered, and I had to clean out my garage, dude. So many lights, Joe. Like I literally picked up like 20 boxes of fluorescent lights. Like I would ever need that many in my life, but I did it anyway. So I have all different sizes of lights now, right? So they were stacked in one side, so I couldn't even walk in my garage. I had to clear them out. It was yeah. Matter of fact, I could probably show you the picture of it, dude. It was wild. But I picked up some giant light bulbs in there too.
Now, let's see.
So I literally picked up a stash.
Yeah, that's more than a couple.
Dude, there are all kinds in there, man. Hold on. There was some I got one of these things right here. So it's a gigantic spotlight.
Ah,
So like for a school gymnasium or something, and it's got all the circuits to it and everything.
Hmm.
And then I picked up actual lights, and they're colored. Hold on. Thank you, old man Bills. The truth you share is very valuable to me. Hey, thank you very much, man. I do appreciate that. Right on, brother.
Korean man, thank you very much. That's huge.
Yeah. Well, I try to give you guys all the information so you can work on your projects. If I figure it out, you got it. I don't hold back. So thank you. I do appreciate that. That was part of the conversation with Floyd Sweet earlier. Where you know what I mean? I'm trying to finalize my thoughts on what he did, but I can't find enough information.
Yeah,
So
well, we could always get together on that, see what we can come up with, and get a better answer out on that. Too.
yeah, well, that's probably what needs to happen. So let me find those light bulbs. I'll show you real quick. This right here, Joe. Oh, you probably saw it in the video.
Yeah, no, that's rad. What is
Dude,
that? Just a huge halogen bulb?
the inside's mercury gas.
Mercury gas? Oh, wow, no kidding.
Dude, it lights up beautiful blue.
Oh, that's
Did,
cool.
did you see the video on it?
I did. I didn't realize it was that particular bulb, though. I guess now
Oh
that I'm
yeah.
looking at it, yeah. You didn't happen to pick up any of those sulfur lamps, did you? The ones
Sulfur
that go,
lamp.
yeah, they're like crazy yellow. It's like a street light.
No, I haven't. I will though. If it comes up, bro, I'm doing it.
Yeah. those
So
are-
I'll be honest with you, man. I kind of want to get some vacuum tubes, is what
Mm,
I'd like to get. and start putting as much energy as I can through them to see what they do. If I can find a cheap source of them,
Well, since they use them in amplifiers, I think that kind of, you know, narrows that down as to what they would do.
the old the old amplifiers,
Yeah.
like hi-fi stuff like that from the 70s.
Yeah, and tube amps.
Hmm.
They're
All
all
right,
vacuum tubes.
I'll look into that. Okay. Sodium vapor. Yeah, tube amps. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do that. Dude, I like playing with different things. So far, I've run it. How do I say this? If we're running for resonance, we run it in AC, or sine wave, I should say. And then if you want a magnetic field, run it in DC. But you want a sine wave. That's what you want. And I have 20 gauge on the coils that I have now, and I think it's got to be like 26 gauge. It's easier, tension's better. 20 gauge is kind of stiff, and it leaves bends in the wire is what I don't like when you have to tie it off or something. So I'm sure there's a better procedure for all of it, but I'd prefer to get a thinner wire. So because I don't, well, yeah, because I don't need to do the magnetics for it. Those are parlor tricks, so I don't need to do those. Run it in music.
Yeah,
Nice.
running in music is right, man. That's what I say.
So we can add that. If you think a trigger circuit, you can run your like iPhone on the other side of it. If you just get like a stereo jack for your phone,
Yep.
and then run it through to the trigger circuit, and then the trigger circuit handles the high amount of power on one side, while the low amount comes in. So it only needs to be 5 volts, which is perfect because that's what your phone puts off. It goes in there, adds a frequency to it. So if you wanted to play like AC/DC through it and play some Thunderstruck, it would actually change the frequency in the DC power going through. So your voltage would hit with the music. You know what I mean? It'd go up and down.
You should show me how to do that because I have a Bluetooth adapter that runs right off of a headphone jack like that.
Nice. Yeah, I'll show it because I have the circuit. I use it to spin magnets. It literally cost me, Joe, I think it was $8 for like 6 of these things.
Mm.
And then all you need is like 12 volts to go through it. You don't need the high amount. But yeah, they add it right to the circuit. Like, so when I run DC flybacks with it, you can see it go out in the voltage and the amperage changes as you run the sound through it. It's cool. So it'll go from purple and then you get it into white and yellow and stuff like that. And it keeps changing the field as it goes back and forth because it's changing the frequency up and down.
Right. Exactly.
Dude, it's so awesome.
But aside from music, well, although it's still music, just any kind of tonal modulation in certain sequences might have cool effects too. Just like beyond visual effects, if it's screwing with the field geometry that way, or the field energy levels.
Yeah. So
to play with, I know, since that's something that maybe I could do sooner than later, maybe I would be able to share on that.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll proof the circuit and then send it to you.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
So yeah. We still need 60 kilovolts. Okay. So geometry coils work differently. Okay. You're trapping a layer of static in between two fields. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's the way they work. And then each field you build, they do the same thing. That's why it's called a leaky capacitor in the center, because on the outside, the static bursts out, and on the bottom, the static bursts out because there's no other layer to hold it in. So you're stacking them. As you stacking them, they add together. So that's the trick. It's not like a conventional coil. So you don't start out with 60 kilovolts. You start out with like 12 volts. That 12 builds into 1200 volts. Again, each
Yeah.
layer adds.
Right.
Then
Right.
yeah, and then it shoots out into the room, man.
That's
It's
right.
completely different process, like I said. But they're getting close to the same thing.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like a speaker. It's oscillating back and forth, trapping a field in. Yeah. For each wire, for each two wires that go across, it'll produce a field between them. So it's producing like a dielectric, okay? And then it crosses right over top, creates another one, and then they do it again when they automatically cross again. So, and it's the friction of the field that's running through it that creates a static. You don't have to add static to it. It's automatically added based on the friction of the rotation of the field because each section builds out in a different way. So you automatically get a rotation and then the static builds because of that rotation. It's irritation that's going on there. And it just whoop right up. Total different process.
Simple man. Ask the question again. I just scrolled up, and it looks like the last thing you said that wasn't like emojis was you know, retracted or something like that. I don't know.
Right here. How to trigger pulse your primary without transistor or MOSFET.
Oh, I didn't see that one. Good catch.
This right here, if I can get it open, is a trigger circuit. The power goes right through here on top and bottom. It just goes straight through. On this side over here, you add in your frequency. So you can put a frequency generator to it. You can put your phone to it, whatever, and it transmits a frequency and duty cycle. So, you know what I mean? Then this right here goes to power. So this is your high side. This is your low side on this side. That's exactly what they are. You find them on Amazon. They're real cheap. But yeah, that's it. That's the simplest way to do it. And you don't have to worry about anything else because, like I said, it changes it.
How does that affect the resonance of the coil?
The sound going into it.
Yeah.
It does it because you add the sound to both. Okay, so if I say I had a MOSFET or a transistor running one side of my coil, right? The side that goes down. And then I have another one run the one that goes up. As I put my frequency generator into both, I can now control the resonance between them by putting in the same number, right?
Right.
So now they automatically bounce back and forth, right? Now, can you match your capacitance based on the frequency that you put in? That's what has to happen. If you could do that, you could start bouncing the circuit back and forth, right? So that's kind of the trick to it. You have to have a balanced system and you have to have cutoff points where there's diodes, okay, they're a cutoff point. Whether it be like capacitors, those are another cutoff point. Your neon light's a cutoff point. It has to have breaks in it as you go in order to build it to go back and forth the right way.
Okay.
So, what's the MOSFET number for which one? Because I think it's MJE 13009. If I'm not mistaken, that's an NPN transistor. You can make a negative energy circuit out of it. Yeah, MJE 13009. God, it's pathetic that I know that.
Hey, but you do.
What do you think about the idea of transmedium craft playing with sound, solid state scan? Because you think speaker. So we were talking about this before. The way sound builds out, Okay, if you think about the sound wave like this, as it comes in and out like this, now then you'll see it right. If you take your craft and you build it like that, and each wave goes like this, but you got to remember you're not just building up, you're building up and down. Okay, in this craft, so it's almost like two speaker waves going. That's why I say this. Now, your craft is, if it's in a UFO shape, it fits perfectly in between there. So if you look at the levitation experiment, they use little balls, but the balls can sit left and right just a little bit because there's a space that looks like a UFO in between them. That's how they jump from one to the next. So sound, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Pick your frequency to get to the next level. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, realistically, it's my opinion at least that sound, we like to talk about it in terms of, audible, right? Like audible sound. But realistically, just a perturbation is what it is, right? So that's any sort of perturbation in or without a medium is the most fundamental, um, type of disturbance of potential that exists. You know, so that's the most fundamental. So it's critical to all systems. It's directly related to every single thing that we discuss because but for not it, then nothing.
yeah. So sound isn't scalar as far as I know. Okay. What sound is more of a like cutting through everything to create an opening to pull things apart. It gives you a tunnel to go through. That's
I,
more of
I,
what I
I
see
mean,
it
I
as.
disagree in terms of that though. Like, I think that
You think
sound.
it's scalar?
I think it is scalar. Yeah.
So
I
explain.
Well, it's because of its vector, and it's out. It's got omnidirectional propagation, and how it moves, and it doesn't necessarily have a transverse process.
Okay.
So I think that's by definition scalar. But the fact that it can be directionally propagated is what separates it from electromagnetic scalar, like we discussed, because
Mm,
that has different. Its vectors are the same, but it's less directional. In terms of dimensionality, not dimensionality, in terms of like whether it's like direction of broadcast, right? So with sound, it could be pointed in one direction, and it's always going to be outward propagating in that direction of that it's being emitted from. As opposed to it being electromagnetic, where it's 360 degrees outward or inward. It's just sort of, I don't know. That's kind of how I think about it. I don't know. If anybody in the chat wants to add on to that, that's
Well, he
cool. But
said, Skip was saying sound is longitudinal. So that would be in the
no, I
scalar
didn't. Yeah,
field, coupled with
which
scalar.
is what I was saying about it lacks a transverse process.
Yeah, that's what he's saying too. Let's see, and the cascade is powered by 0 point energy from the Casimir structure, which that would be, by the way, in that geometry coil, it would technically be a Casimir structure, but it's done with fields and not with plates. Yeah, so you're pretty much right on. Yeah, if you talk about it in that way, it's more like a jump drive than it is anything else. It's going to pick your frequency where you're at. Okay, so we were looking at the lights, right? The northern lights, and we are telling you they're breaking out like a waveform out of your Tesla coil, kind of in the same way. But it tells you something about the environment we're in. We are in a pressurized environment that builds out where energy is everywhere and light propagates everywhere when the sun hits, right? It's all over the place. But when you see the northern lights and you see it break down, you start seeing the frequency pattern, right? So if you know how to flip a field and go from one state to the next, then you can use that to your advantage to get somewhere. You can now take the radiant field that builds out and flip it into the field that you want with the little lines going through it. So now you can jump and automatically get there. That's a Byfield Brown effect. So if you can see it that way, based on what we're telling you is going on, that you can see it in the northern lights, how it breaks down, then you know that you're in a radiant field because when the sun comes out, it's everywhere. You know which field that you have to fix in order to get into it. Now, doing the Tesla coil, we flip back and forth in different fields for that very reason. I'm simply looking to identify the fields. Then I can know which one to switch into when I want to jump. That's the whole process there. That's what anti-gravity is. It's not a lift. There's no lifting the weight. The weight is non-existent once you get there. It's the field bubble you put it in supplies the energy around it, which nullifies the weight to the gravity that you're in because it's in its own locality. It completely changes the understanding of it.
Right. Well, you think about it, right? The Earth is what? Like the Earth is negatively charged. Is that correct? Pretty sure. Right.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah.
Right. And if you look at matter self-organizing and attracting to other like matter, it doesn't work like a magnetic effect. It works like, a condensation effect where the like charges attract one another, hence gravity. Because matter, it's got the same charge as the Earth. If you create charge densities opposite that are, more in tune with the atmosphere away from Earth and away from matter, being the positive side, you have those densities higher. It stands to reason logically that you have buoyancy. Again, that goes right into the density levels, and the diffuse nature of the density. It's so any time that you have a like charge, if you want to be in the sky, you need to reach the sky's charge, and then at a higher enough density level, that the buoyancy becomes, a repulsive force as opposed to an attractive force. Under that reasoning, so you're self-organizing yourself in ambient atmosphere as opposed to the higher density levels of matter and the energy associated with it.
Mhm.
Same as a pressure differential at the end of the day, right? And we know that the pressure differentials or temperature differentials for the hot air balloon, right?
Yep.
Hot air balloon is a temperature differential, so it floats, right? Airplanes, anything like that is pressure differential, right? A boat is pressure differential. So that these differentials, have what to do with it. And in the case of electromagnetic gravitation, it would, if you're looking to break into buoyancy that way, you need to turn matter into a higher density energy charge in a diffuse state. That way you could float. Just saying.
Yeah. So I think you're right, Joe.
Yeah.
So you asked this question twice, I believe. You're changing the craft's internal frame. Nope, not changing anything. Okay. All you're doing is you need a directed point of energy. If you've ever seen the OTCX1, they have the she-shaped transformers, right? And you have a coil of wire. Just think about this. You're not activating every single one of them when they're going. You're activating one at a time. That right there tells you the frequency and the direction you're going. Okay, that's it. Boom, you hit that on that side, it goes that way. Okay, that's how it works. So you also have an up and down feature, and as you tilt your crafts, you could go like this. Now, that's how these things are operating. You don't need to change anything else. All you need to do is just simply, understand the frequencies you're in. It's like if the lines are so compact tight, just think of it this way: in order to get in between them, you have to create a resonance. Therefore, the resonance gives you space in between. It basically is putting a bubble in between the lines, and that's how it weasels in there. It vibrates, it allows it in. Now you're in. Now you're in, broken from the gravity itself, because now you're in between the lines, right? When we look at the plasma air plasma structure that they build out in, it tells you right then and there, okay, I need to be in between them. I can only get in there based on resonance. Then I have to have a bubble to keep the stuff off of me. Now I need omnidirection. I just go where the heck I want. That's it. That's how the gravity's done. It's breaking that field.
Well, the whole maneuvering situation with that, once you achieve one thing, it becomes another equation at that point of equilibrium, right? So the higher your densities are, you keep on going up and up and up until you reach an equilibrium, right? But if you manage it at a lower density, well, then it's got a certain altitude that it's going to reach an equilibrium at, right? But to go forward and back, now all of a sudden you're using the same forces at work and their byproducts in order to create maneuverability. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if you have magnetic forces in play, all you really need is, you know, poles, and you need to be able to just have a pole here and have it chase another pole. So by creating a pole here and a pole right outside the reach of the physical the physical craft itself in that context, right? You would have it in a constant state of chasing wherever you modulate this other pole. So it would just be able to chase that pole. So by having, just an adaptive surface, so to speak, right? Let's say you put a south pole charge all on the outside of the thing, and then you have an inner structure that could actually adjust where your north pole is. Now all of a sudden you could just steer it wherever it needs to go. It's always just going to be attracted at that particular spot, not in that vector direction. So now you could actually control it.
I agree with that, but that's like you would see that in statics. So when you create one big plate and one small plate, the static always pushes in one direction. The small plate always tries to get to the big plate. You know what I mean? So if you had like the craft and you had like a small antenna on the bottom, and your intention was to go that way, then yes, absolutely, it continues to try to chase it to be with it. So yeah, it works the same way. But then you're saying now put it in a gyroscope kind of a thing, right? Where you can maneuver it any which way.
Remember, like even with superconductivity and things like that, how do they achieve it in a laboratory now, right? They achieve it with a major temperature differential. Once again, you got to go super low in order to get it, right? That's because, well, there's your fraction right there. If you could change the ambient, zero, so to speak, of what's surrounding you, and then you're able to also change what you have going on inside to meet that same requirement, that ratio requirement of differential, then all of a sudden, you break locality. That's the locality break. That's it, when you're dealing with superconductivity under cryogenic circumstances. That's what you're dealing with there. Is a break of locality between the relationship of the matter and the earth because of the extreme differential that exists.
Yep.
It's the same thing as the steam layer that we've talked about before. Same thing with that.
So Skip says I meant the inertial frame. You know what he's talking about there, Joe?
One more time.
Inertial, INERTIAL.
I can't see the comment on my screen. I'm gonna have to scroll up to find it. Hold on. Oh, he meant inertial frame. I got to see the rest of the comment.
Yeah, well, the other comment was had changed the inner frame, so he didn't say it's not inner. He's saying it's
The inertial
internal.
frame. Okay, so you're changing the craft's inertial frame. Like how the helix of an electromagnetic wave transports the scalar midline center of electromagnetic waves. What's that say? I don't know, something vector. Ponytig. I can't read, man. I need like reading glasses. Pointing vector.
Well, we
Yeah,
just talked about the pointing vector.
that's basically what I was describing before
Yeah,
when I was talking about the encasing its own tail.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if it says internal, well, like I said, we're not changing anything on the design of it on the inside. It's not like a transformer. So I'm kind of lost in the question.
I'm a little bit too. I mean, that's what I got out of it. I'm sorry if I'm not understanding fully. But
Yeah. Interesting stuff.
it is. It's fun to think about because like the concepts are all there in regular everyday things we observe in science, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's just a simple matter. I mean, I say simple matter, but it's just simply a matter of making everything work together. Because it's not any one component or concept that's not there. It's just getting it all to coexist.
Yeah, I don't think yeah, not internal. It's okay. Sorry. I still don't get it. Sorry.
Yeah, but John Bigman gets the point. If you shield yourself from Earth's mass, that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
You're creating density levels that are attracted to something else other than Earth. So therefore, you get what you're looking for. It's creating buoyancy at that point. The relationship between the matter and Earth at that point, which is what we're attracted to, the mass of Earth, right? It's you could break that mass relationship by creating differentials in energy by changing the side of energy that you're on. That's because Earth and the atmosphere are two different sides of energy, the same as the outside of the Tesla coil and the inside of the Tesla coil are two sides of the energy.
Yeah.
So that's what Nathan says all the time, right? You flip the field, right? If you flip the field and you could have high enough density levels where the attractive charge, so to speak, of the matter is no longer um, strong enough to overcome the flipped field. Now all of a sudden your field bubble is a buoyancy attractive bubble that's going to try to find equilibrium within its similar chart. There you go. That's what I'm saying. And it's just a game of differentials. Say that over and over again. That's why the hot air balloon, floats is because it's hotter than the surrounding, so therefore it's less dense, it's lighter, in context. That's why bubbles go to the surface, right? In water, et
Yeah,
cetera, et cetera.
I agree. So gravity waves are deflected around the bubble. It's not internal mass reduction. No, it's not mass reduction at all. It's like, okay, throw a baseball on the moon. There's less gravity, so it goes further, right? Throw it on Earth, it goes a few feet. Okay, that's the difference. It's not about the weight at all. Okay, so once you've reached a point where the gravity has no effect, then the weight doesn't matter because it's no longer held by gravity. So it loses whatever weight you thought it has. There
Right.
is zero weight.
Right. There's so how we right. So that's exactly what Nathan said is the case. There's no weight reduction per se because the mass is actually the same. Okay. However, the mass that we're just thinking about it in wrong terms because we have gravity as fairly constant, right? So we measure mass in weight, but the actual mass that it has is different depending on the relationship it has with its what it's being attracted to. That's what the measure is. If you break the relationship between the mass or matter, and what it's being attracted to, then you could look at that as a weight reduction, because that's what an objective test on a scale would show, I suppose, right? But that's not actually the case, because the matter is still the matter, and it's no lighter necessarily, because the volume and density of the materials being used is all the same. That's the point. The volume and the density, that would usually be how you would figure out what the weight of it is the same. So you're not changing the volume or density. Therefore, weight just becomes irrelevant. It's not that it's reduced, it's irrelevant,
Yeah,
because
it's
the
irrelevant.
relationship is broken.
That's right. That's the whole point. Because right now, yeah, you're being maybe that's what he was talking about in this question. Okay. So yeah. So yeah, you're not removing any weight. As a matter of fact, you put whatever the heck weight you want in there by the time you're done, because it's not measurable on a scale like that. Because if gravity was gone, we'd all be floating and shot out to the universe, because we had nothing to hold us here to Earth. The centrifugal force would have shot us out already.
Yo, Magneto hit it on the head. I wish I could be as simplistic as that. I'm still fat on the moon. Perfect. That's exactly it. You're still fat on the moon, right?
Love it.
You don't weigh as much on the moon, but you're still fat on the moon. And
There
that's
you
the whole
go.
point. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Yo, I'm gonna remember that forever. So thank you.
Yeah, that's why it's completely different than. So when you talk to people in physics, they're at mass reduction, right? That's their whole thing for anti-gravity. And I'm telling you, they're not working within the system, is what I'm trying to tell you guys. It's a different system than what they're seeing. We're seeing it all play out in the ionosphere everywhere. It's not like it's hiding from us. The frequency, the temperature differentials, all of it's there. All we have to do is find a way to use it. That's why I'm doing the test on the Tesla coil, to find each part of it and find out how to counteract it. Now I know what I'm in. Now I know where to go with it. Okay. So, yeah, it just changes our understanding. And this is why we did that episode. We were talking about the different parts of the field. There's the static, there's a magnetic, and there's a radiant. Every one of them has it. And if you know that, you can flip the field in which you're in to create the anti-gravity. If you say it doesn't have a radiant field, not getting anywhere. As soon as you spin a magnet, it has a radiant field. As soon as you spun it, you understood there was a scalar portion to it. These things are common. They're everywhere. All you have to do is recognize it and put it in your system and work with it. So, yeah. That's the frustrating part, when you get people telling you, it's not there. Well, it is. It's just, at what level is it there? That's kind of the point. At what level is it there? Because it's always present. It all works on a scale. So that's why when they start talking about particles and light and stuff like that, and you realize it's simply when it comes into contact with some kind of magnetism at all, it changes it, but it also has to have a higher frequency to it. So our ionosphere has a high frequency, a small bit of magnetism, and a large amount of radiant energy, right? When you get to the top, you're getting a lot more of the static portion of it, or what you would call potential. Well, then you get the light. That's the same way high voltage works. There wasn't any change from it. We just had to realize what it is what we're dealing with. As soon as you realize you're in scalar, and when you get towards the planet, the light starts to become apparent.
Well, if we've learned anything from modern times, it's that gravity and the effects that we're discussing, right, have very little effect on certain types of waveforms and stuff like that. And the way that we know this is because we shot Katy Perry into space and she still sounded like shit in zero gravity. So, you know, it's kind of proof in the pudding, you know?
Oh my god. That whole thing was a disaster. They start opening the door when they get out. They're like, "Oh, no problem." He's got to get a special key to make himself look good. Oh, what a
Yeah.
disaster.
Biggest mistake we made was bringing him back.
I'm
She was
telling
cute
you.
back in the day, but she looked like fan fiction or something these days, man. It's like they gave her a fan of hers like a pen to like just draw on huge lips, draw on like make her. It's like trying to defeat age, but not naturally. You know, disaster.
Oh my god, dude. I'm telling you, Joe, we should have added some extra fuel tanks. A couple of big round brass fuel tanks on that thing would have made that rocket look just right, kept them up there for longer. That's the way it needed to
Listen,
happen.
we could have done society a favor, okay, and Elon Musk right at the same time. Just by doing that, we could have shot him all the way to Mars. What are they gonna do? Like seriously, what are they gonna do? It's been like, oh yeah, yeah, you wanted to go to space. We're sending you to space, all right. You're going to Mars. That's it. What do we do when we get there? There's no men to build the roads.
Oh my god. It'd be like that housewife show in the fucking rocket. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Oh, what a
Imagine they
disaster.
get to Mars and the only thing that's there is like a bear, and they're like, "Good thing there's no men on this planet. We have the bear."
Probably gigantic spiders there.
Holy
I mean,
shit! Bunch of stupid broads, man.
oh, spaceman broads. They're there. Astronauts.
Yeah, outer space boobies are probably great. Like they're probably great. They have none of the complication of Earth breasts.
Oh my god. Oh, let's see. Celestial bodies borrow energy from the ZPE and it's created. That's why our bodies create space time distortion and change the frequency through the meditation like monks can levitate. Yep.
I 1000% agree with that statement. Something I've said many a times. We all have internal time dilation. It's how it goes. We none of us perceive time the same, and that perception is actually not a subjective change as reported, but rather a difficult to measure, if not impossible to measure, objective change.
So, have you ever been in the zone and time changed on you while you were in it?
Yes, ish. Wait, what do you mean? Like, because I'm taking that two different ways. So I want to.
Okay, so say I'm just doing little squats and I'm touching the table as I come
Right.
up. Okay. If you get yourself in a zone working out and you continue to do that, it seems like time is moving slower, but to everybody else, you're flying. Okay. So that would be like a form of time distortion.
That's internal time dilation difference. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the perceived right. Your perceived concept of time is always changing, and it has direct relationship to do with your brain waves and how they are resonating and where they're resonating at. And this is why when you go to sleep, sometimes you could take a short nap and feel like you've been asleep forever. Other times you could take sleep all night and the last thing it felt like a moment ago that you went to sleep, right? It's just all depending on where you're at. And,
So,
and it's objective, it's not subjective. We treat it as a subjective metric, but it's not.
so Eighth was saying, and he said it before, I agree with him there, because I've said thousands of times, time is a perception, nothing more relative, only to brain frequencies. So he has said that a bunch. And Yeah, what I want time to be and what it actually is are probably two different things. He's probably 100% right.
So the crazy thing that I've actually never said, but is very fascinating, right? Is in the metaphysical sense of things. People often talk about raising their vibration, right? Well, you're vibrating at a very high rate.
Hmm.
There's an inverse relationship, okay, with those high vibratory states, okay, and low brainwave states. Okay. So
Okay.
the higher your vibrational potential is and the higher you're able to actually bring that up, the lower your brainwave frequencies go, which is why when you're in, delta and theta brainwave states, you're you can't really reach those states naturally in consciousness without having a very high native vibrational state of your own body, right? So the mind actually works in an inverse way, you
Hmm.
know, and that's actually why when you reach states of stillness, you're resetting a zero where there's an equilibrium between a lower brainwave state and a pretty high frequency state. So that's your zero. There's very little differential between the two, which is what gives you, you know, what they would consider mind heart coherence, right? So I don't know. I love that stuff. I'll talk about that all day. But I mean, that's where it's coming from.
I mean, I've had those times, man, where you get in a, well, not right now, but when I was younger, where you get yourself in that zone where everything slows down for you, but your body's not moving at that same speed. It's flying. So I've had that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we have natural functions and processes and chemicals and stuff in us that induce that in us too. And a lot of it is released when you're exercising. It releases, like, I mean, I think the most well known of them would probably just be adrenaline, right? When your adrenaline's pumping and everything like that, why are muscles capable of that aren't capable of lifting a bag of concrete, for instance, all of a sudden capable of
Mm.
lifting a car? Well, does that have to do with strength or does that have to do with work over time? Think about that real quick.
I get it.
See where I'm going? What
Yeah.
work over time? Because you ask that person that lifted the car that can't lift the bag of concrete about that moment. They'll tell you a whole entire story about something that happened in a fraction of a second. Okay.
Mm.
So a lot of time passed where they were able to manipulate this work over time, okay, to achieve something that they are physically incapable of doing. And these are documented things that have occurred. And every single person who's ever had one of these extreme, um, acts of strength in emergency or emergent situations under adrenaline, well, I can't say definitively, but I'm going to say that I would put the bank on these long duration stories about these small fragments of time. Okay. And it all happened in the blink of an eye. Okay.
Hmm.
So there's a direct correlation, in my opinion, right? In that with adrenaline actually being a cause of massive time dilation.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and there's other ideas around it too that I bet you would play into the same exact part side outside of strength. Survivability, the same thing. How do you have somebody who's imminently going to die that has an adrenaline spike that's able to pop back to life? It's because there's a time allowance that you're not seeing that's allowing for that survival.
Mm.
You know, uh, so I think that there's a direct correlation between adrenaline and time dilation. Right.
Wow. Yeah, I would tend to agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
Something that I've
Yeah.
never thought about until right this moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, the eighth has been telling us and putting it in our head and pounding it in there. And I guess it didn't click until we find something that relates to us. So John says it could have been our penile activation. I would imagine that's a gland in your head, not the other.
Oh yeah, I
smaller
was
head.
gonna say, man, they sell over the counters for that. Oh no, you need a script. Whatever.
Yeah, it was a
He
different
fucked the
type of.
clip, buddy.
Now you can
But
always go the other route. You can get the orgonite butt plug, and you'll get your penile may fixed at that point, depending on who you are.
I don't know. According to Frank Zappa, that's not how that worked. Good old Freddy fucked that boy up.
Oh my god!
I take about an hour on the Tower of Power. As long as I get a little golden shower.
Oh, come
Oh
on now!
God, I'm so fantastic. Thanks to Freddy, I'm a sexual spastic. Anyway,
Oh,
probably one of the best worst songs ever written.
it sounds like it.
You don't know it?
No.
Oh well, guess what you're getting in your inbox as soon as we get off.
Oh my god!
Oh
Oh, it's terrible. All right, Joe. It's been 3 hours, man.
yeah, time dilation. It does that.
I'm gonna start thinking about that now that we kind of went over it. You know what I mean? Because it's an interesting way to look at it.
Really is. Really is. And you could sit there and piece away the time that you'd want to pass by you pretty quick. One more thing on that real quick before we go for the
Go
night,
for it.
right? This is what I was trying to think of and I didn't at the time. When you have massive control, okay, over that, this is when you enter into your anomalous people that when you say somebody has like an innate talent to do something like athletically, let's just say, I think that's a great example is athletically, martial arts or baseball or this, that, the other thing. How does the person get into that zone to be able to hit the baseball religiously going 90 something miles an hour? How does a martial artist, sit there and calm himself and focus and be able to block a punch that's imminently going to hit him in the face, duck out of the way, and then respond and react to that? Okay. These aren't the norms for most people. But then there's
Mm-hmm.
people that fall into these categories of intuition and being able to zone in on these things and react in controlled fashions. And that's the magic, literal magic, okay? Like the magic with a K, not a C deal, okay? Of being able to control that time dial, okay?
Mm.
When you're able to zone in, tune in, and then actually control that, you're gonna have those reflexes. And the people that are able to react in that sort of way and actually practice to harness it further, right, are the ones that do the best. And what you'd notice is that some people that are good at some sports are generally good at most sports. They might not be professional level or something without working on that, right? Because anything takes practice, but your reaction time has so much to do with that. And
Yeah.
reaction time has everything to do with the time dilation. And it's something that you either have or you have to practice to get in order to get the highest levels of achievement. So any person that that has these high levels of athletic ability or martial arts ability or anything like that, it's all just a matter of them having practiced that one fundamental thing. Because if they get control of that, they're going to bring it to that next level, the level that you just simply can't naturally achieve, even when you sit there and practice. practice, never as good. Yeah, that's because you're practicing on the action. You're not practicing on the focus.
Okay, hold on. Kind of going through my brain now. When you create a time dilation field and you're standing in it, it's altering something in your body and the frequency in order for it to dilate time properly in your skin, in your head, right? That that makes all the sense in the world of when you're dealing with the frequencies that we deal with and the voltages and everything like that and the saturation levels and what it's doing, it's altering the frequencies in your body in order, okay.
And
And
then
your
the
mind
last
always
thing it's gonna
compensates.
right. So your mind is compensating there, but then it goes further because your brain in that case and your consciousness is connected to your neurological system that runs through your entire body. It resonates through your entire neurological system, and then your entire aura is basically in that zone. Maybe and to a diffuse degree, right? So there's certain parts of you that are away from it. But the question is, does it emanate from your head or your heart? Because I would probably say that it comes from your heart and your heart's relationship to your breath, just as much as it comes from your consciousness. There's, I don't
I,
know,
I
the
I
whole
think your heart's more like a beat frequency, and your brain is more like with both sides, like a resonance between the two
right.
halves.
So you have what's called mind heart cohesive,
Yeah.
cohesion, right? And it's through that, and that's the same thing as saying that your mind and your heart are in resonance. Your mind and your heart can only be in resonance, but for one thing, and that is your breath. The reason for that is because your breath is it's a disturbance pattern in your rhythmic heartbeat. So you don't get a clean sine wave necessarily in your heartbeat unless if you're holding your breath. So
Hmm.
you really only get it under certain circumstances, unless if you can control your breathing to the point where your breath and your heart are able to sync up too. So if you get your lungs, your heart, and your mind to work together, it all flows in synchronous.
Hmm.
Yep.
Interesting. Hmm. I never really thought about it that way, but I guess it would be the way it works, huh?
Tends to be.
Hmm.
And right, through the vagus nerve, like Center said. That's how that kind of there's a back EMF if you want to call it that, except it's physical and it's with blood. You know that occurs. When your breath and your heart are not perfectly in sync, which is why during waking consciousness, that's the sign of the waking consciousness. When you see a healthy heartbeat goes, up and then down in the sawtooth pattern, right? And then it actually takes a break, before it continues the pattern. That break, that's kind of the seat of consciousness, so to speak, like waking consciousness.
Hmm.
Um, because that's what signals to your brain that like you're awake, so to speak. When you're sleeping, your heartbeat changes because you're unconscious. Yeah. So anyway, we could go into that more another day. We are three. This is a deep topic.
Well, we'll have to remember for next week because it's a fascinating topic, and I think everybody in the chat's totally into it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh man, that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to be thinking about this all week too. I don't think that one's leaving. So, all right, guys, it's been about 3 hours, man. We're going to get out of here. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us in the chat, man. I know we didn't get on a regular topic today, but I still think it was a really awesome show. So,
Yeah, man, we had some good talking points. Went all over the place. It's what we're here
nice.
to do. We're here to do it different than everybody else. You get a little bit of everything.
Right on, man. All right, man. If you guys can help out Joe Gold Mining, Joe, what are you at? Because I didn't update this thing. You got a good amount in there so far for the mining thing?
Yeah, the total is 180. The
That's
last I
pretty
checked.
good.
Yeah, not bad. It's enough to get me definitely out there. I was gonna wait until I had enough to join for the year, but at this point, I think that I'll take the 2 trips to that mine and see what I can make of that, and just keep it going that way. You know, because it's gonna take a bit to reach my goal, I think. So
Well, I'll be honest with you, Joe. You go out there a few times, people see you going out there to do it, and then they'll want to sponsor it more. So if you could
yeah, I
pay
know
for
that.
going one more
Yeah,
time,
it's if anything, I mean, I think the biggest the weather's been bad, right?
yeah,
But the one thing outside of that is that, see, like, now that it's getting dark out later and stuff like that, because you could dig there until sundown, right? Like, I work, so I could shoot out of here some days at like 4:30 in the afternoon, and or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and have like 3 hours of just like mining, or 3.5 hours of mining in a
yeah.
given day. But the thing is that if you're not a yearly member, then you pay the full day.
Mm.
So, like, that's tough. Like, to go there for $100 for 3 hours or something like that just isn't worth it. So that's kind of what I'm up against, or else I would be out there more just after work. But it's I just can't swing $100 for 3 hours of digging. That's insane. So now I'm kind of relegated to just going when I have a full day to commit to it, and then the weather's got to work nice with me. So it's a limiting factor, but it's what I'm up against.
Hey, Joe, old cobalt glass.
What about cobalt glass?
Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit.
They were saying you could see fields through old blue cobalt glass. So,
Well, you can, but the more effective way of that is the dicyanin glass, which is those glasses that I told you.
oh, okay, okay. So
Yeah.
that's what he's
Like
talking
like
about.
you could get. I'm not saying that you don't get nothing out of cobalt glass, because you can, but it's just not as. My understanding is it's not nearly as effective as dicyanin.
And there were 100 and something bucks for those.
I think one lens is about $100 if you just wanted to use it as like a camera filter or something like that. If you wanted to use them as actual goggles and see binocular vision that way, which is my understanding is the most effective way to use them, then you're in for $200. So, or right about that.
Okay. All right, we'll talk about it then. If they got one for my camera, I'll get it. That's
Yeah,
a good
check it out.
investment. All right, guys, have a good night.
All right, peace and love, folks.
The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to instead. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time. Battling the establishment for just a little recognition has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds